Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching first part of What If Naruto Learned Demon God Slaying Magic. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
How did we lose them? A black magician screamed at his followers. A terrified subordinate told his boss, "Sir, there's a reason he's called the Yellow Flash Minato, of fairy tale." The commander's sinister grin crept across his face as he replied, "You think I give two shits about that stupid nickname of his? All he can do is use teleportation magic when he runs out, and we can get that brat from him." "Sir, I still don't feel right about this. Isn't he his son? Why are we taking him again?" Subordinate 2 inquires. He broke most of his bones as he was pushed against the ground for his query. As he began to move away in the direction of the blood trail, the chief apologized, saying, "I thought I heard hesitation, but it must have been my imagination." As he began to dash after his commander, the first subordinate muttered, "Demon Brawler Damon, that is a name well deserved." As he began to hobble while clutching a sleeping infant, Minato remarked, "Damn, they really got me good. If I hadn't jumped when I did, I would have died. Your mother died giving birth to you and now your father is about to die before you even get a name." Minato murmured. He whispered to the young kid in his arms, "The Tower of Heaven wouldn't be after us if you didn't have so much power at birth." A voice behind him remarked, "Yes, if only that Mr. Yellow Flash and we might not have to kill you to get him." When Minato turned around, he saw a fist poised to strike him. In order to avoid taking the full force of the strike, he leaps back just enough. As the youngster makes a ball and flies into woods, he tucks him close to his chest. "Ha ha 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 ha, the second strongest mage in Fairy Tail is this weak. How is it that we have not destroyed Fairy Tail yet?" Damon giggles. "Yes, you just needed to send your entire guild against me while carrying an infant to do it," says Minato. Damon approaches Minato and says, "Make all the excuses you want, but you will not be able to run away now." As a yellow symbol appears over the endless, Minato says, "Yeah, I can't move at all after that punch that you hit me with, but I still have just enough magic left for one more teleport." Damon shouts, "No you don't," as he jumps at Minato, but it's too late. The baby was transferred far away from them while encased in a yellow glow. As his eyes begin to cloud, Minato says, "You won't be able to get him for a while." Damon sneers as he raises Minato off the ground, saying, "The love for a child from their father, too bad he will never know who you are." But by the time Minato died in Damon's grasp, it was too late to remove the light from his eyes. Around 300 kilometers away outside of a cave, there was a dazzling light that vanished, leaving behind a sleeping baby. An infant's cry of, "Wah!" was triggered by the light that awakened him up and made him run away from his parents. A dark voice asks from inside the cave, "What is this noise?" As it is examined by enormous, lethal crimson eyes, the baby stops wailing. As a snout emerges from the cave, a deep growling voice asks, "What is this? Human cub is giving off that power." The baby boy gazes at the enormous monster head that emerged from the cavern. "Ha ha." The baby reaches out to the monster and laughs innocently. The monster begins to remark, "You have a great deal of power, maybe," as his muzzle touches the infant. The infant makes the monster laugh silently by rubbing its muzzle. The monster told the infant, "Yes, I think I will raise you, even for a short time, and teach you the Demon Slayer magic." He took the baby up in its teeth and said, "My name is QB the Last Demon, and I will be your father from now on, even though you can't understand me yet." As he is carried inside the cave with his new father, the baby is once again sound sleeping, demonstrating its faith in the devil. A 5-year time jump. A little lad with blonde, spiky hair said, "QB, where are you? I got it right this time." QB opened his eye languidly to observe his son try a spell once more and remarked, "Oh, is that right? Naruto, let me see then." As he collected his energy in front of his face, Naruto's sky blue eyes widened with delight. "Okay, here we go, just watch QB," he said. A blood-red symbol and tiny purple orbs begin to form in front of him. The orbs began to converge as Naruto pressed his hands together, eventually forming a massive ball twice his size in front of him. The ball shrank to 6 inches in diameter as his hands clapped together. Naruto threw his head back and thought, "Okay, here we go." Biju Bomb. Naruto, a demon slayer, screamed and hurled his head forward, sending the purple energy ball hurtling forward. The ball went supersonic and slammed into the trees, creating an explosion 40 feet in diameter and leaving a massive shockwave in its wake. When the QB saw the magnitude of the explosion, his eyes widened a little. QB replied, "It should be soon now," as he turned to face his adoptive kid, who was grinning at him with his trademark foolishness. Naruto inquired, "What should be soon?" As Naruto entered the cave, QB told him, "You should see it someday soon." "I want to train more, QB, it's still light outside," Naruto said. As he lay down on their nest, Kyuubi remarked to Naruto, "Let's sleep now so that we can get an early start tomorrow morning. You will want it." After entering the cave, Naruto simply shrugged and lay down next Kyuubi, who covered him with some of his tails to act as a blanket before they both fell asleep. Naruto felt like he was on fire and was drenched in perspiration when he woke up in the middle of the night after sleeping for a few years. Then Naruto sat up in their bed and said, "Kyuubi." After opening his eyes, the Kyuubi turned to face Naruto and noticed that he was in pain. The Kyuubi told Naruto, "This was sooner than I expected, but that is not a bad thing." Naruto looked down at the ground and asked his father, "What do you mean, Kyuubi? Why do I feel like I'm on fire and it hurts all over?" The Kyuubi looked at Naruto with interest and stated, "You are changing. This is normal of all that become demon slayers. Some turn into animals if they are too weak, some stay human if they are strong, it depends on you." Naruto questioned, "But Kyuubi, why is this happening now?" With sorrowful eyes, Kyuubi addressed him, recalling all of his pupils. "This occurs after the Demon Slayer masters the Biju bomb that you completed this afternoon. You did it faster than any of my other disciples." Naruto started to continue, "But I never met any of," but the fresh anguish that was starting to penetrate his body interrupted him. "I'll tell you if you remain human, but if you don't, you'll be an animal forever," Kyuubi said Naruto as he sat up and observed his pupil moaning in agony. Although the Kyuubi did not like witnessing, he understood that Naruto had to go through this in order to fully unlock the Demon Slayer magic that he had so much desire to perfect. As he placed one foot on the ground in an attempt to rise up, Naruto grinned at the Kyuubi and said, "Okay, I'll hold you to that promise, and you better not break it. You always told me to keep my word, didn't you?" To the surprise of the Kyuubi, Naruto began to stand up on his own 2 feet after grabbing him for support. A smirk appeared on Kyuubi's face as he thought, given what his body is going through right now, he shouldn't be able to move, much less stand, but here he is on both of his feet, and I am truly glad that I didn't let this child die when I first met him. He is a great student. Naruto mockingly asked his adoptive father, "What are you smiling about, Kyuubi? Did something good happen, or are you just laughing at my pain?" Kyuubi glanced at his kid and said, "I will never laugh at your pain, my boy. It's just laughing at me for making the right choice all those years ago." A dazzling red light began to emanate from Naruto. "Kyuubi, what's going on? Everything is getting so bright that I can't see you. Where are you?" Naruto said in a terrified tone. Naruto sighed in relief as Kyuubi reassured him, "Don't worry, I'm still here. Just calm down." Kyuubi closed his eyes due to the intensity of the light enveloping Naruto, and when it began to fade, he turned to face Naruto. As Naruto turned to face his father, he wondered why he appeared to have question marks hovering over his head. Naruto questioned, "Kyuubi, what is wrong?" and then began to worry, believing that he had changed into a beast. As he went outside, Kyuubi told Naruto, "I think it will be better if you just come with me and see for yourself." Naruto simply began to follow the Kyuubi as he had no idea what he was talking about. Kyuubi instructed Naruto to gaze at his reflection in the water when they were at the river just outside their house. When Naruto accomplished this, he was the one with doubts hanging over his head. He couldn't quite put his finger on it yet, but his face was the same but altered in some way. He mentioned, "Let's see chin, nose, eyes, whiskers, ears, hair, ears," while touching each one. When Naruto touched his cheeks and felt as though he had 3 whiskers on each, he shouted, "Wait, what?" But withdrew his hand when he thought he had stabbed himself. He noticed that his fingernails had changed to resemble claws. He knelt before the water and looked more closely, noticing that his pupils were still sky blue but slanted. He glanced at the top of his head once again and noticed that he had 2 fox-like blonde ears that were black on the inside and had a crimson hue. Naruto inquired inquisitively, "Kyuubi, what happened to me? It's like I'm a human but I'm not at the same time. It looks like you took the third road and became a hybrid demon slayer. They're the rarest and most powerful. It was the right choice to pick you," Kyuubi said him. "Yeah, you better believe it, I'm the strongest demon slayer in the world," said Naruto. Kyuubi glanced at Naruto and thought, "You're the only demon slayer in the world." When Kyuubi told him to check at his back, he did so and noticed that he now had a tail that was roughly 1.5 feet long. Naruto said, "Hey, I have a tail. Does that mean I can get 9 of them like you, Kyuubi?" "Well, when you master your demon cloak you will be able to get 9 different forms of it, getting stronger the more tails that you produce," Kyuubi replied to him. "Yes, I'm going to master it. Is there anything special about being a hybrid?" remarked Naruto. "It's pronounced hybrid, Naruto, and yes, you will be able to use different abilities as well, one being the Rasengan," remarked Kyuubi to him. With his trademark giddy smile, Naruto questioned, "The what now?" As he made his way back to the cave, the Kyuubi stated to Naruto, "I will explain it tomorrow morning." This was a noisy night, and I would like to go back to sleep. Ah, but you said you would tell me about your students. I want to know. Naruto sighed. Kyuubi told him, as for now, we need to sleep. I'll tell you in the morning. As Kyuubi made his way to the cave to sleep as well, Naruto whispered to him, okay. Alright, but when we wake up in the morning you were going to tell me, you promised. The morning after, Naruto was in the cave when he awoke, yawning and wiping the sleep from his eyes. Naruto yawned and said, Kyuubi, good morning. What are we having for breakfast today? A hush fell. Naruto began searching the cave for Kyuubi and asked, where are you? Naruto went outside to find him and remarked, he must be out getting food or something. He heard a crunching sound as he approached the cave's edge. He noticed a large leaf folded up when he looked down. Normally, Naruto would disregard these things because reading hurt his head, but when he noticed his name written in Kyuubi's handwriting, he decided to do so. He doesn't have thumbs, so just so you know, he uses his tail to write. When he opened it, he discovered more leaves within. He saw that the images had descriptions beneath them. The letter containing the remaining leaves was the first thing he read. Naruto, I am sorry that I had to do this, but it was the only way that you would start to live on your own like any cub would. Though this might seem harsh and cruel, now you will understand later. I had to leave so that I would not be found by other mages, for if they found me they would be after me to kill me, because they will only see me as evil, not as the father that you see me as. In those other leaves you will see that I have given you detailed instructions to learn 2 other demon slayer techniques that I have not shown you yet, but be warned, the demon cloak is dangerous to us without practice first. Naruto was crying as he read. Naruto sobbed as he reread the letter and noticed an arrow pointing to the side of the page. Baka Kyuubi, you broke your word and you abandoned me on top of that. When Naruto turned the letter over, he discovered more. And Naruto, before you start thinking that I am a liar, I will tell you about my other students. You will never see them because they are either dead by now or are animals like I told you. The last apprentice that I took that remained in a human form died 15 years ago while in battle. I was reluctant at first to take another student after that, but when I saw you a brand new babe and I knew how cruel this world could be, I decided to take you in and teach you how to defend yourself. But do not worry, Naruto, you might not see me anymore, but know that I will always be looking after you because you are my knuckle-headed son. After all, love, your father, Kyuubi. Naruto said those last words, and even though he was crying he had a giant grin on his face. Naruto responded, thanks, Dad, as he leaned over and examined the other 2 leaves. As he studied the description of the technique, Naruto remarked, the first technique is the Rasengan Hu. As he stepped outside, Naruto said, I have to get energy in my hand and start spinning it. That doesn't sound all that hard. Training normally takes my mind off of things, he said as he began his stretches. After warming up and stretching for about an hour, Naruto looked at the leaf once more to see exactly how to use the Rasengan. Demon slaying Rasengan, Naruto yelled as he formed one energy orb in front of him until it was the size of his palm. Now the second step is to start spinning this fast enough that it can send someone spinning like a top, he said, focusing until it began spinning. This is so is, Naruto began to say as the thing exploded in his hand. Cough, what the hell, I thought I did that right. Naruto began to dust himself off. Naruto shouts, okay, one more time, as he picks up another energy orb and begins spinning it quickly once more. I'm doing a time skip just so you won't get tired of listening to Naruto scream in agony while he practices the 2 techniques Kyuubi left him to learn. 6 months following Kyuubi's departure, Naruto congratulated himself, saying, ha ha ha, I finally mastered the Rasengan and some of the demon cloak. In the note it said that I can't use its full power till I'm older, but whatever I did it took that Kyuubi, I did it in half the time you said I would. Alright, now I have to go into civilization. One wonder what that is. Maybe it is a type of snack, Naruto said as he began to walk back to the cave. As he approached his house, he noticed something in front of it and muttered, is that a bag? As he now jogged to the cave's entrance. Wait, this is Kyuubi's handwriting, Naruto said as he removed the letter and began to read it. Dear Naruto, it looks like I was right when I said that you were my best student, because you were able to gain the skills that took those before you at least a year to do, and you did it in just half that time, he said, pointing to the leaf with his name on top of the package. I therefore bought you a few items that you will require for your adventure through this planet as a treat. I want you to go to a place called Fairy Tail. It is a guild that will accept mages and give you work so that you will have money, and Naruto, I taught you about money and its importance, so I don't want you to waste his money on anything stupid. Naruto read the words, and he produced a wad of cash with 10,000 jewels on it. Also, you are not allowed to run around in just those shorts that you have been wearing all the time, so here is some clothes. When I was teaching you about different colors I noticed that you liked this one. Remember, it is called orange. Naruto looked inside the pack and found a map, a water bottle, some food in bags, and 3 pairs of orange tea. shirts, dark blue pants, and boxers with a white and orange coat on the top with a nine tails insignia directly over his ear. There will be another letter for you when you are older, but for now, goodbye. Good luck on your journey, my son, and be yourself. You will form ties with people you find dear. Naruto finished reading the note with a broad smile on his face. With his new clothes on and the remainder in his pack, Naruto declared, I'm going to be the best mage in the world, believe it. Alright, this is going to be the last time that I will be here, said Naruto. He gives his house one last glance before grinning. Naruto shouts the final line as he bolts out the door, I will return here when I'm older and see it when I'm ready, but until then I am off. As he folded the map once more and began to walk north, Naruto remarked, well, let's see, according to this map, I'm here in the middle of this forest and the closest place that looks like a town is Forststead. It sounds funny, but it's the first stop. Naruto had no idea that a shadowy figure with a sinister grin was pursuing him. It looks like it was a good thing that I waited all that time, now I will be able to meet a legend, the shadowy figure replied. Naruto looked around and noticed a tree with a branch large enough for him to sleep on. Well, it looks like it's getting late, I should go to sleep soon, he said. With ease, he landed on the branch after leaping the 20 feet required to reach there. Setting the bag aside, he used it as a pillow and covered himself with his jacket, which he used as a blanket. As he stepped up by the fireplace and took out a potion, the dark shadow made his move. As he opened the bottle and poured it upon Naruto's head, he whispered, don't worry little boy, this isn't going to hurt in the least. You are just going to have problems using your magic for the trip. Shadow magic shadow bonds, he uttered as his shadow encircled Naruto, revealing only his head inside a black cocoon. After the man descended, 5 more shadowy beings surrounded him. One of the figures remarked, looks like you were right about the kid being here. 2 of his men nodded at him, and as they approached the tree and began climbing to retrieve the child, Brawls sneered, of course I was Commander Brawls. Now let's get him down and get back to the Tower of Heaven where we can talk to him. This was a good day. Okay, you two go and carry the brat, but be gentle, he can wake up if you are too rough with him. Okay boys, let's head back to the Tower of Heaven. Those little brats might be happy to have another one to play with, Brawls said as they began their walk back to the Dark Guild, while Naruto remained asleep in the cocoon of shadows while being flung over one shoulder. The morning after, what happened to me last night? Did I sleepwalk or something? Naruto asked himself as he got up and looked around the stone block he was in, which was empty except for one wall with metal bars across it. He tried to get up but fell down from the drugging he had the night before. When he woke up the following morning, he discovered that he was no longer in the tree that he had fallen asleep in, but instead that he was on a stone floor with a wired metal object around his hands that was connected. I think that I was captured or something, Naruto said as he glanced around to see what he was looking at. He noticed that there was no bed of any kind, that every wall except the one with bars was made of stone, and that he had cuffs on his hands. Hey, is anyone out there? He yells at the barred door, hoping to see something, and a dark figure approaches and looks at him. You should have been out for a few more hours, so must have given you a light dosage, a man with a high-pitched voice says to Naruto. Can I come out of here? Naruto asks the man, turning to face him. Okay, but can I have my bag back? I'm hungry, he says to the man. No, you will not. You will be fed later. As for right now, just shut up and stay there, the man says angrily. With a smile on his face, Naruto says, you are not a very happy person, or you try smiling, more people will like you better. You little brat, do you even know what type of situation you are in right now? The man says angrily. I have been captured by you and now I'm called something called a hostage, right? Naruto says innocently, and the man ends up giving him a facepalm for being honest and stupid. You do know that being a hostage is a bad thing, right kid? The man says to Naruto. Naruto told him, I don't think that it is a bad thing that you didn't do anything to hurt me, so I don't think that you are a bad person right now. You will brat after a little while, but right now I'll take you to your final happy place, the man said as he opened the door. Naruto grabbed him by the arm and began dragging him roughly out of the cell, saying, you do know that you are hurting me, right? This will be nothing compared to later, the man muttered to himself as he continued to drag Naruto down the hall, ending up in front of a large door with 2 large men standing guard at the entrance. Open up, we need him to be in here for a few hours until the room is set up, the man dragging Naruto said to the men. They nod and open the door to a huge room, and Naruto is flung in, and the door closes again. It looks like they took another one, says an elderly voice, and Naruto tries to see where the voice is coming from. Hey, old man, who are you? Naruto asks, grinning, and the old man, who appears to be in his late 60s, says, that is not important, from what I can see you can't move that well. Grandpa, who is the new kid, a girl says, and rushes over to the old man. Naruto first notices the face of a little girl with an eye patch over her right eye. "What happened to your eye?" Naruto asks, jumping up until he is directly in front of her, pointing at her eye patch. She tells him bluntly, "I lost it as punishment for what I did," with a cold look in her eye. "Are you okay? Do you want me to fix it?" Naruto asks, and the old man and the little redhead are now staring at him as if he were crazy. "It is not something that you can just fix," she says angrily, recalling the incident. "If I try I can do it," Naruto says as he begins to get excited, causing his tail to come out from under his shirt and begin to wag it like a puppy. This makes them jump back again, their eyes filled with shock, and begins to attract others. The boy points his finger at Naruto and says, "Oh whoops, it looks like my tail came out. I should get better at hiding this." Naruto puts his hand on the back of his head while his tail continues to wag back and forth, and they look more closely and notice that he has small fox-like ears protruding from his head. The boy passes out as Ezra approaches him. "Sorry, it looks like I am bothering you guys," Naruto says apologetically. "It is alright, but I must ask, are those real?" The girl named Ezra asks the fox boy while gesturing at his tail. "Yes, it is. If you don't believe me you can touch them if you want," Naruto said as his tail goes in front of him till it was almost touching Ezra. She hesitates at first, then pokes it with her finger, making his tail twitch. "It is real," she says as she now grabs it and starts to pet it. After her doing this for a while, she looks at the top of his head and starts to rub one of his ears between her index finger and thumb. Naruto starts to purrs as what she was doing, which made her look at him in surprise. "Sorry, it's just that it feels really nice when someone does that, so it makes me purr," Naruto said with a grin on his face, looking at her. His eyes get drawn to the eye patch again and he felt sad. Ezra saw this and thought that maybe she was petting him wrong, so she grabs his tail again and puts it in a Vic grip. When she does this, Naruto feels a lot of pain and swats her hand away from his tail, and then he jump a good 6 feet away from her. "Don't do grab my tail that hard, it hurts," Naruto said as he started to gentile stroke his tail where she grabbed. "Sorry about that, it's just that you looked sad and I started to think that I did something wrong and that got me annoyed," she said. That is the weirdest form of an apology I have ever heard, but at least she looks sorry even if she doesn't say it. "It's okay, but I think that we have some people that are now interested in your new friend," Naruto says as he walks back over to her. She looks behind her and noticed that almost all of the children were now looking at them. "We have a new kid and he looks like an animal. He is so cute, can I pet him?" one of the girls asks as she comes over to Naruto and starts to touch his tail. "I guess that I didn't introduce myself yet. I'm Naruto QB, nice to meet you all," he says loud enough for the entire room to hear him. He looks back at Ezra and his eyes travel to her eye patch again. He walks over to her, much to the people who were touching his tails whining, and grabs her hand. "Come with me, I'm going to fix your eye," he says as he starts dragging her with him. "I told you that you can't fix it if Grandpa couldn't, you definitional can't," she says to Naruto angrily. "Gramps, could you please make sure that people don't bother us for a few minutes? I need quiet for this," Naruto asks the old man as he walks over to a deserted corner of the room. He didn't even give him time to respond, so all he did was nod and tell everyone to be quiet for a little while. When they reached the deserted corner, Naruto sat down and motioned for her to do the same across from her. She shook her head no, anger in her eyes once more. "I told you it is impossible, now stop this foolishness," Ezra says icily. Naruto now has a tick mark on his head as he stands up, places his hands on her shoulders, and looks her in the eye. "And I'm telling you that it is possible, and I promise that I always keep my promises to my friends," he yells at her. Her eyes widen in surprise, not because he's yelling at her, but because he just called her his friend when they've only just met. "So let me help you, okay?" Naruto says to her, his big stupid grin returning. Too shocked to respond, she just nods her head and sits on her knees in front of him. "Can I take this off or do you want to do it yourself?" Naruto asks her, and she looks at him before putting her hands behind her head and removing the eye patch, showing him her cut eye. "This is going to be easier than I thought. I thought I had to make a whole new eye, but I just have to heal it," Naruto says with a confident smile. Ezra couldn't believe what she had just heard when Grandpa said that even with his healing magic, it would be impossible to heal her eye, but this fox boy said that it would be easier. Just who was he? "Okay, I need your wrist," Naruto says, reaching out his right hand to hold hers. She puts her left wrist in his, wondering what he's going to do, and he brings it to his mouth, bringing it down hard enough to draw blood. "What magic are you going to do?" Ezra asks, well aware of the fear in her own voice, but Naruto still has that stupid smile on his face, which is now beginning to irritate her. "Demon slaying magic. I'm going to do something called bonding. It's a spell that allows a few people to be given a portion of my magic, and depending on the type depends on the spell I can do on the person," Naruto explains to her. So what are you going to do? She asks, still unsure of exactly what is going to happen. I'm going to give you a special seal that will let me be able to heal any wound that you might have from now till you die. The only thing that I will not be able to heal without giving part of my life force is life-threatening wounds, he said to her, still smiling. What magic was able to do this? I've heard of dragon-slaying magic before, but I've never heard of demon-slaying. Just who was this boy? She thought. Alright, this part might hurt you a little bit, but it is necessary for the magic to work properly. Naruto takes her wrist, bits it like hers, and draws blood. She gives a painful yelp in pain at what he did, but restrains herself from punching him into the wall as she sits there now with her emotionless expression. She was about to ask what was going on when Naruto closed his eyes and put his bleeding wrist to hers, but then a blood-red magic seal appeared underneath them both, bathing them in its light. When she opened his eyes, he saw that they were no longer the sky-blue color that they had been just a moment before. Instead, they were the same color as her hair. Demon-slaying art bond, he said, as she felt a burning sensation go through her arm and spread throughout her body, but when it reached her entire body, it subsided to a warm feeling that made her feel happy. Now we completed the first part, he said to her, smiling. There will be different things that will happen to you later on, like you will be more or less immune to getting sick as long as you don't do something that getting sick would be unavoidable, like standing in the middle of a blizzard for an hour or something like that. Additionally, you will be able to recover more quickly than you now can. This won't happen right away until I give you some of my magic, but it will be apparent. Finally, he told her, no matter how far apart we are, we will be able to communicate and feel if the other is in any danger. She was confused by the information he had given her, wondering what he meant when he said that she could regenerate quickly and that she could communicate with him. It means that we can hear the other's thoughts when we get stronger, he said. I'm already strong enough to hear you, but you are still a little too weak to hear mine just yet, but you will be able to soon enough, he said with a kind smile. Before she could ask another question, he put his hand up to stop her. I'll answer you later. As for right now, I need to heal that eye of yours, right? He said with a smile as he put his right hand over her eye. Demon Slayer magic regeneration, he said as she felt a warm light over her eye and started to hear a hissing noise. They stayed like that for a full minute, Ezra determined not to blink throughout the duration of this time. When the light faded away, Naruto removed his hand and sat in front of her with a smile on his face. And there you go, sorry about the color of it though, but you get something out of it, Naruto said to her, and she started blinking because of everything looking brighter than it was a few seconds ago. When her eye adjusted to the light, she noticed something different but couldn't put her finger on it. Here, I'll help you, Naruto says as he covers her left eye. She was about to yell at him because she wouldn't be able to see, but he still saw him and his grin, even though she knows that his hand was over her eye. She let out a gasp at what was going on. Her eye was healed. Even though it had been cut open, it was healed and she could see out of it. The only thing that I couldn't do was make it the same color as your other. I'm sorry, but it is the same as your hair if that helps, and also it is immune to all types of magic now, Naruto says to her as he stood up and offered her a hand up. She took it and picked up her eye patch and put it in her hand, and they walked back to the old man hand in hand. Hey Gramps, it looks like I was right about being able to do it. Just look, Naruto said to him while putting his fingers in a V shape. The old man looked at him in confusion and then looked at Ezra, who no longer had an eye patch on and instead had a new crimson-colored eye. Needless to say, his jaw went straight to the floor. Young man, how were you able to do that in only a few minutes? That should have taken years to fix with my magic, the man asked in confusion. It's because I am just that awesome, believe it, Naruto said to him while wagging his tail back and forth. I still didn't say it yet, but thank you Naruto, I am in your department, Ezra said to him while bowing his head politely. Naruto wraps her in a friendly hug. No problem Ezra, ill always helps my friends even if you are my first, he said to her with a smile. She hugged him back, and when they separated they were both smiling like good friends should. Then they hear the big double doors to the room opened and Naruto put his tail back under his shirt and his ears down so he looked like a normal kid again, except for the silted eyes. Yo Braid, it's time for you to say bye to this trash. You are going to be coming with me, a big buff man yells as he walks into the room. Oh well, it was nice while it lasted, but I think they will start hurting people if I don't go with them. Bye bye Ezra, I'll see you again, he said to her as he jogged over to the man. He looked back at her one more time. If you ever need to talk you can talk this way, he said to her in her mind. Even though it took all of her willpower to not run and help her new friend, she knew that if she did the same thing that happened to Jelly will happen to him, so she just stood there looking down while biting her bottom lip to keep herself quiet. As he continues to walk, Naruto asks the man, so where are you taking me this time, buddy? The man thinks, this kid is either the biggest idiot or he is making fun of me, either way he is pissing me off. As they proceed to the next room, Naruto complains, hey, Are you going to answer me or not? The man responds. I'm taking you to have a chat with our boss. He has been waiting to see you for 10 years. Naruto thinks, this is boring. Ezra. Are you there? Ya is South Ha Road to talk. Ezra slowly responds, don't worry, you will get us to it, and when you do it, it will be a great way for us to keep in touch. Naruto smiles. Oh. Okay. Ezra responds to him. Naruto is now grinning, and the man sees. What are you smiling about? He asks, and Naruto responds, just thinking about how much fun this is to talk to you, buddy. As they approach the door, the man who was escorting Naruto knocks on the door and asks to enter, and the man, of course, ends up face-palming at the comment. It's obvious, this kid is a moron, he thinks. He responds, Eric, as they enter the dimly lighted room with only a few candles around the desk where a 6-foot big man who looked like steroids was his idea of a lollipop was standing. Naruto asks him, forgot to ask, but what is your name? At the man's stature, Naruto's first response was merely a whistle. You're big, Naruto tells the enormous shadowy figure, and Eric, leave now. The man's voice is deathly, and Ezra nods wildly before leaving the room and locking the door from the outside. As he pushes the desk aside to make room for Naruto, Brawls says, I am Brawls, the new owner of this place, and you are going to answer some questions that I have. When Broccoli approaches Naruto and stands directly in front of him, a tick mark appears on his head and Naruto asks, what did you want to know, Broccoli? He asks, what are the secrets to your demon-slaying magic? Naruto responds, I can't tell you they're a secret. When Naruto backhanded him so hard that he ended up with a hole the size of Naruto in the wall, Brawls replied, wrong answer. That was a warning, now tell me, Brawls said. Naruto exits the wall and looks at Brawls, blood streaming down his face, saying, I still can't tell you that. A tiny green magic circle emerges above Brawl's hand as he says, oh, so you think that you are a tough guy after taking one punch? Do you well? Let's see how you do when I put magic into it. This time, he strikes Naruto in the stomach, causing him to spit and cough up blood before collapsing to the ground. As he cracks his knuckles and a sinister grin spreads across his face, Brawls remarks, your stomach isn't on the wall, so that means that you have some durability. As Naruto licks all the blood in his mouth and spats it out into the ground, he tastes the metallic taste of his own blood. Naruto pondered as he got back up to confront Brawls. He hits pretty hard, but he is so slow. Why is it that people are so afraid of him? All they have to do is move out of the way of the punch before it hits you. As he prepares to strike Naruto once more, he adds, just answer the question and I won't beat on you too badly. This time, however, Naruto predicted the punch's trajectory and simply sidestepped away, causing Brawls to smash the wall behind him. That's the point, Brawls exclaims as he grabs Naruto by the collar and slams into the ground, creating a creation once again. Sorry, Brawls, but I don't want to get hit by that over and over again, it hurts, Naruto told him. How is he not screaming or something? Any one of those punches wouldn't have placed any of my guys in full body casts. You mean? Naruto remarked in a petulant voice as he stood up again and rubbed his head. Brawls pondered as he watched the child stand up for the third time. Density magic times 20, Brawls says as he leaps at Naruto, slamming him through the floor this time. Alright, since you can live through that well enough, I don't have to hold back in this interrogation, he says. A dark smile creeping across his face as a large brown magic circle opens beneath his feet and a dark light envelops him. These metal things that they put on me are making it impossible to use magic. This time, Naruto coughs up blood and tries to look up, but his vision is too blurry to see his assailant. Naruto lies on the ground and muses. With a savage grin and bloodlust-filled eyes, Brawls looks down at Naruto and says, don't worry, I won't kill you. We need to know that magic of yours so that we can resurrect Zareth. This might hurt. Naruto murmurs as Brawls leaps down on top of him. After 4 hours of interrogation, I can't go into further detail because I don't want small children to be harmed. Brawls laughs at him as he leaves the room, saying, ha 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 ha, you are still alive, little fox, that's good. We will have a lot more fun until you tell me the secrets to your magic. Eric, get him to his cell and get a doctor for him so that he doesn't die yet, he is too much fun. Brawls commands the terrified guard as he leaves, dropping Naruto in front of the door, the only object in the room that he didn't break, and kicking it open. There are craters everywhere and this kid took every punch and was what created all of these holes in the walls, Eric said, staring at the bloodied and broken body of Naruto on the floor as he stood there in shock for a few seconds after entering the room. He approaches, takes up the child, and his face flinches because he feels like putty in his hands. He then proceeds to the cell that was allotted to him, carries him to the bed, and gently places him down before rushing to fetch the closest doctor. Are you sure that we should have the chains off? They're what keep his magic at bay. Eric asks as he and the doctor return to Naruto's cell, remove the chains he was wearing, and bandage him up. By the time they are finished, he appears to be wearing a full body cast. He is too injured, he will not be awake for a few days at least, and even so he is too injured to us magic anyway, the doctor tells him as he exits the cell and moves down the hallway. As Naruto leaves the room and shuts the door, Eric says to him, I hope that you pull through, kid, even if I have killed and kidnapped people before you didn't even care about that, you just acted like a little kid anyway. He doesn't lock the door because he expects Naruto to stay that way for a while, but as we all know, he tends to heal a little bit too quickly for most people's liking. Naruto wakes up after 2 hours or so, and his entire body hurts, with most of his bones still broken. He blinks his eyes a few times until his vision returns to normal, and when he tries to move his arms, he discovers that his entire body is wrapped up, and the bracelets he had on before are gone. Naruto asks, Are you awake now, Ezra? Yes, I am, and it's a lot easier to talk to you now, Ezra replied, her voice clearly surprised. I think the braces that I was wearing were limiting my ability to tap into my magic before and were blocking out our bond, and you weren't able to talk to me. That makes sense, none of us down here have any magic, so we don't get those, Ezra replied in her typical placid tone. Naruto says to her, Hey Ezra, I don't like it here. It was okay before because I was with you, but now that I've been beaten up for a few hours, I don't want to stay here anymore. If that's true, I can have us go tonight if you give me an hour. I can come and get you and everyone else out. Ezra said regretfully to Naruto, No one wants to be here. We want to leave, but we are not strong enough to leave. We are waiting for someone to help us escape. Naruto queried inquisitively. Indeed, Naruto is initially this foolish. Well, you couldn't do that, but now that you've healed my eyes so quickly, I'm sure you can get us out. I'll wake everyone up and wait for you, I swear. Ezra asks. As he sits up and fights against his body's want to remain in a supine position and the cries of agony that his cells are sending him, Naruto says, It's a promise. Demon Art Biju Cloak. Naruto says, Okay, one tail should do the trick, as a blood-red magic seal materializes beneath him. As he utters the spell, red boiling energy envelops his body. I believe that everyone is aware of how this looks. Alright, I should be able to heal in about a half hour and then I can go and get Ezra. I wonder if she would like to go to this fairy tale place with me? Naruto questions inquisitively. A half hour later, time skip. Naruto smiles and says, Okay, I feel better. He flexes his muscles, removes his cast, and leaps to his feet while still wearing his Biju cloak. Naruto exclaims, All right, it's time to go and find Ezra, as he bursts out the door and dashes down the hallway at human speed. As he approaches them both, they are both taken aback by his conversation with Eric, the first person he encounters. As a blue magic seal materializes before him, Eric exclaims, Shit, I thought that he was supposed to be out for at least 2 days, but this is a lot shorter than 2 days. Sleep magic dream world. Eric exclaims as Naruto is struck by blue light. As Naruto jumps straight through the light and knocks both of them out cold, he adds, Sorry, but I have to go and help my friends, so instead of that, you two are going to be napping. As he dashes across the arena, knocking out anyone who could be in his path, Naruto asks, Ezra, I'm on my way. What floor are you on again? Ezra tells him, I think we're on the 2nd floor. Naruto responds, Okay, I'll be there in a moment. Make sure everyone is out of the way so that I don't accidentally hurt anyone. He then concentrates a Biju bomb into his hand. Demon Art. Naruto screams as he smashes the red sphere into the ground, shattering it, then instantly makes another in his left hand and smashes it through the next floor, descending 2 floors. Naruto, what are you doing? We can hear explosions nearby. Ezra asks him in a worried tone. As he attacks another Rasengan, Naruto says, Don't worry, I'm okay. I'm just trying to get to you. I think that I am right above you. Get clear, I'll be down there in a moment. As he slams the Rasengan into the earth, shattering the floor and landing on the dust cloud directly in front of Ezra and the others, Naruto declares, Here I come. Someone shouts, What is that inside the cloud and what is that the ceiling broke? Another shouts, I don't know, all I can see is something glowing. Do you think it's Brawls? Someone questioned in a terrified tone. Everyone screams in terror as Naruto emerges from the dust cloud while still wearing his demon cloak. What are you, a monster? Someone asks. Ezra tries to defend Naruto by saying, That is not very nice. That is Naruto, the boy that we met not even 5 hours ago. Naruto says to the matter of face as he removes his demon cloak, Hello again everyone, I'm here to get you all out of this place, and to answer your question I am a demon slayer, not a monster. A boy said angrily, How can we trust you? Naruto responded, You can either trust me or leave now, or you can just stay here if that makes you feel more comfortable. Ezra, which is that fastest way out of here? Asks Naruto as they all stare at him as if he were insane. She tells him, I have to go and help Jelil, but through the front gate. A man shouted, who the hell says that any of you are even going to get out of here alive? Brawls, accompanied by 20 of his men, said, it looks like I am going to have to correct your way of thinking again, Ezra. They all had some sort of weapon in their hands and were grinning savagely as they considered what they would do to the rebels. The only person who was unmoved by this was Naruto, who stepped in front of Ezra and shielded his friend with his arm. Sorry, but I don't think that anyone here is here because of their choice, so I'm going to take them with me and leave here, explains Naruto. As he cracked his knuckles, Brawls remarked, so what if you can use magic? There are 20 men and me, and if my memory serves me correctly, I was beating the hell out of you not even 2 hours ago. Naruto grinned and said, yeah, but you put on cuffs that prevented me from using any of my magic, and now that I can use it, I'm going to have to kill you. As a magic seal materialized beneath his feet once more, Brawls remarked, I would like to see you try that, boy. Naruto responded, as you wish, as a blood-red seal materialized beneath his feet. Brawls says, density magic times 30, as his body begins to glow once more. As crimson light began to radiate from his body, Naruto remarked, I want to leave soon, so I'm going to have to try a little with you and get those weapons away from your men. Demon Cloak Level 2. Naruto goes on all fours, his cloak enveloping him, and 2 red tails emerged behind him. One of the guards shook his sword at Naruto and said, what the hell is he? That red energy is enveloping him. I'll be taking those weapons from you now, Naruto declares as he vanishes, frightening every man but Brawls, who can still make out a blur of him from his fighting days. As his tail snatched up the men's weapons and flung them in front of Ezra, Naruto's demonic voice shouted, now all of you will die for what you did to my friend. His claws were glowing with electricity. The blonde demon slayer slaughtered all 20 of the men without hesitation or even a glance, as if he had done nothing wrong, leaving everyone in the room both shocked and afraid of him from what he was doing. As he materialized in front of him, Naruto declared, now Brawls, I will give you one chance to let us leave before I force you to let us leave. Brawls smirks, his eyes gleaming with hunger. Now I see why demon-slaying magic is so rare and wanted that power is insane. Well, thank you, but are you going to let us go or am I going to have to kill you? Naruto asks politely. He pointed to a man who was brandishing a dagger at Ezra's heart and remarked, it appears that you missed one of my men, though. The man pierced Ezra's shirt, causing blood to flow as the dagger pricked her skin. Now go back to normal and put these cuffs on like a good boy or I will kill this girl, he said. Naruto scowled at the man, bloodlust flowing from his eyes, and growled, you will let her go right now before I make you wish for death. The man's hand slipped and accidentally cut Ezra a little deeper than previously as he began to shiver uncontrollably. Die, declares Naruto icily as he disappears and seizes both of the man's arms, causing his demon claws to grow longer and tear the man's arms off. Why are people so fragile that shouldn't have ripped them off? He asks inquisitively as he throws the arms aside and circles the man with one of his tails. The man screams in agony as he is lifted off the ground and stabbed by Naruto with his clawed hand, but Naruto ignores him. Don't worry, I'll put you out of your misery now, Naruto says, grabbing the man's heart and tearing it from his chest. The man glances at his own heart before lowering his head to gaze at the ground. Naruto throws his body aside and turns back to Brawls. Naruto leans forward, preparing to spring at him, and says to him, let's leave now or I'll kill you. I didn't even see him at that moment. Was he not going full speed before and that power? Even with my dense magic I won't be able to battle him, let alone beat him. Brawls was too astonished by what had just transpired to hear Naruto. A little energy ball began to grow in front of Naruto as he counted down to 3, 2, and 1. Okay, you made your point, fine, you may leave, Brawls said as he began to exit the room. When Ezra finally snapped out of her reverie, she turned to face Brawls and said, wait, where is Jelil? He needs to accompany us. Brawls pointed to Naruto and said, he's up 2 floors, 3 doors away from where you were being held. One of the children remarked, he is a lost cause, Ezra, let's just get out of here, and he began to go to the door, followed by the others. But she started to say, she added, but everyone was already out the door, except Naruto, who was relieved to be free once more. Ezra replied to him, Naruto, please help me get him, he is my closest friend. She gives Naruto a yip as he simply smiles at her foolishly, puts aside his demon robe, and lifts her up bridal style. He put a little of the demon cloak over his feet and hopped up floor by floor until they reached the correct floor. Okay, here we go, he said. I will return in a short while after going to make sure they are all out and safe. She gave him a nod before heading down the hallway to find the room where Jalil was. The old man asked, "Where is Ezra? I thought that she was with you." Naruto replied, "She is getting her friend right now. I just came here to make sure that you were all safe. I'll be back soon." The group was in boats, ready to depart, and Naruto was back with them. Ezra said, "Help me," and Naruto's eyes opened, revealing his demon cloak once again. "I'm coming, just hold on," Naruto murmured, rushing through the ceiling to retrieve her. After running through 2 flights, he heard Ezra's voice behind a door, asking, "Jalil, what is wrong with you?" There is obviously lunacy in the boy's voice as he says, "Nothing is wrong with me. I am just the chosen one by Zareth to bring about a new age and give him life once more." "So you wish to interior very well, you can both die," Jalil says as a giant magic seal appears in the entire room. Naruto knows that if he goes into Three Tails' cloak he can survive this, but Ezra couldn't. Naruto breaks the door open and rushes in, discovers a boy with blue hair strangling Ezra by the neck, and uses his hand to remove it while catching her and holding her protectively. As he picks her up bridal style once more and rushes out of the chamber, kicking down the wall and plunging down, Naruto says, "Sorry, Ezra, but we are leaving right now." A massive explosion immediately behind him and Ezra destroys the majority of the tower's upper half. Don't you think he'll fit right in with Fairy Tail? When Naruto makes his tails impale themselves in the wall behind them and leaps at the boat, they are about to drop in the water, and everyone is staring at them. Half of the children faint from shock. The old man, who sees Ezra holding to Naruto with tears in her eyes, asks, "Welcome back, young man. Where is Jalil?" Naruto tells him, "The boy with blue hair is different than he was before. I think that he was possessed," as his cloak vanishes. After he sits down and begins to pant heavily, Naruto says, "Sorry, don't worry, I'm fine, just tired. I haven't eaten all day and using my cloak like that while running on empty was really hard." Ezra glances up at him, worried that he was harmed. The old guy smiles warmly and says, "It looks like both of you need a good rest, so sleep. I will stay with you until you wake." Naruto nods and immediately faints. The old man looks to the horizon and says, "This boy will be a good friend to her. I hope that they stay together for a long time." Ezra was a bit more reluctant to go to sleep, but she did it anyway because she was so exhausted herself. A 5-hour time jump. "We're at shore, young one. Wake up," a soft voice says. Naruto looks up and shields his eyes from the sunlight, his eyes fluttering open. The speaker says, "Are you awake? That is good," and Naruto recognizes it as the old man's voice. Naruto wakes up to check his surroundings and asks, "Good morning, Gramps. Did we sleep long?" Yet he feels like someone is waiting for him. Looking over, he notices that Ezra is resting on his shoulder in some way, so he stays down to let her sleep. The elderly man said, "Naruto, it seems like she has taken a liking to you. I haven't seen her trust someone that much since Jalil." "Well, I don't see why you wouldn't trust your friends," replied. The elderly guy gestured to the groups that were assembling and then departing with backpacks, saying, "Well, that aside, as you might be able to see, most of the people that you saved are now leaving." Naruto gazed at the sleeping Ezra on his shoulder and remarked, "I already know where I am going. I just hope that Ezra will want to come with me. I can tell that she has powerful magic, she just needs to draw it out." The old man thought, "You don't say," and then he had an idea. "If I recall well, the chief of that guild takes in young children and teaches them how to harness their power. Why don't you bring her to Fairy Tail?" he asked him. The man inquired, "Boy, may I ask who your father was?" Naruto replied, "That is where my father said to go to. He was Kyubi, and that is all that I am allowed to say about that," Naruto added. The elderly guy took out a map and began drawing on it, saying, "That is a very interesting name that he has, but I will not pry into your past, it is yours after all." After a minute or so, he hands Naruto the map. The elderly man hands Naruto the map and says, "Here you go, little one. This will tell you how to get there." Naruto looks at the map and notices 2 circles. One that reads, "You are here," and another with Fairy Tail in bold letters. Naruto looks around and asks, "Thanks, old man. Which way is north though?" "It would be that way, my boy," he adds, pointing toward the forest. Naruto inquired, "How long would it take us to get there if we walked?" "I would think about a 2-day journey and you would be there," he said, stepping off the boat while carrying a suitcase. As he heads west, he asks Naruto, bewildered, "Where are you going? Aren't you going to come with us?" "No, this is your journey now. I will be going my own way, but I will tell you that when you get to Fairy Tail that you ask for a man named Makarov. He is the leader of the guild and he is a very nice man," he says. Naruto looks down at the sleeping redhead and says, "Makarov who? That sounds like a good name. I hope that Ezra will come with me though." Her eyes flutter open as she glances at him at the sound of the blonde fox's name. As she sits up and wipes the sleep from her eyes, Naruto says, "Well, good morning, sleepyhead. Are you feeling better? So I have a question for you," Naruto says, as Ezra looks him in the eyes and wonders what he wants. Naruto asks her as he gets up and puts one of the 2 packs he still has on his back. "Well, since we are free from that place, I was wondering if you wanted to come with me to Fairy Tail. The old man said that it was a good place for us to go, and that is where my father told me to go anyway before I was taken away by those guys in the tower." Ezra gave him a serious look and said, "I will go with you, but I still have to repay my debt to you." "Then you are not allowed to come with me," Naruto told her as he began to go toward the forest. This shocks and irritates Ezra, who takes the bag and begins strangling Naruto, demanding, "Why the hell not? I thought that I was your friend, why can't I come?" "Because you said that you were going to be coming with me to repay a debt that you do not have with me instead of coming with me because I am a friend," Naruto remarked to her after feeling a little lightheaded from shaking at first. As she realizes this, she stops strangling him and smiles. "All right, then may I accompany my friend to Fairy Tail?" she asks, beaming, and he responds, "I wouldn't have it any other way," as they enter the forest together. 2 days later, time jump. "It looks like we finally made it, Ezra. I wonder where the guild is," Naruto said as they entered Magnolia Town after their protracted journey through the Land of Fury. "I wonder that as well. I do not see where the guild is from here. Maybe we can ask the people of the town," she said to him. He pouted at her and said defensively, "I made sure to give you food and have you finish before I started eating, didn't I? That is a good idea, and it's a good thing that we got here when we did, or else we would have run out of food and would have had to hunt," Naruto said. "Well, that is your fault for how much you eat," she said to him. Naruto pointed to her bracelet, which featured a ruby eye and an orange fox leaping across it. "Yes, you did. I will give you that, but I can't believe that eat that much," she said to him. "Well, I can't help it. I have a very high metabolism, so I have to eat a lot," he said, grinning. "Plus I gave you a sword so that you could defend yourself, so I think that we would have been good for hunting anyway." She gave him a gentle pat on the bracelet on her left arm and added, "Yes, and I do thank you for that. Because of that, I was thinking that I know what type of magic that I will choose, but I would like the master's input before I decide on that." He agreed and followed her instructions. "All right, well, that aside, make sure to hide your tail and ears, people will not understand you like I can and might not help us," she continued. Ezra approached a shopkeeper and said, "Now that we have that resolved, let's ask, excuse me, mister, could you tell me where Fairy Tail Guild is?" "Oh, are you looking for some help?" he said. "They're in the center of the city." "Thank you, sir," Naruto said as he and Ezra began to leave. "I hope they will be my friends," Naruto remarked. "I think they will be happy to after they get over the fact that you are a demon slayer," Ezra said politely to him. "Are you sure about that?" he asked her anxiously. He smiled in response to her question, "Have I ever lied to you?" and nearly began to wag his tail until he realized that it was improper to do so in public. "But you have to keep your promise that you will not kill anyone," Ezra said with a seriousness. "Don't worry, Ezra, I won't do that anymore. I only did it because they were going to kill everyone. If I tried to knock them out and I didn't get one of them, he could have killed everyone there while I was busy with that big guy," Naruto replied to her. Naruto said, "Oh wait, but if it is a demon I have to kill it because it is my duty as a demon slayer to do that." Ezra nodded in agreement, and they continued walking. "All right, as long as you keep that promise I will be with you forever," she said, smiling gently. "I will keep that promise and I never go back on my promises," he said to her. Because they were so preoccupied with their conversation, they nearly passed Fairy Tail before Naruto stopped. "Naruto, what is it?" Ezra inquired, glancing at her companion, who was beaming maniacally as he gazed inside Fairy Tail. Just as he ran through the double doors, Naruto said, "I smell a demon." A man with blue hair said, "Wow, who is this kid?" Naruto then addressed the guild. "I smell a demon in here. Where is it? I need to slay it." A man smoking a pipe responded, "There are no demons here, kid, just mages." Ezra entered the guild next, located Naruto, and slapped him across the head for simply entering the premises. Naruto ignores them as he begins to smell the air until he looks at a girl with long white hair wearing a punk outfit, a little girl with short hair next to her wearing a pink dress, and a boy to her left with spiky white hair wearing a blue suit with a bow tie. Then, all of the guild members jump back in shock as Naruto's tail and ears appear, causing Ezra to end up face-palming at this. As he knelt down to prepare to leap, Naruto said, "Found you." The boy behind his sister saw him, and his eyes widened like frying pans. "Mirajane, look out," he said, and she turned around just in time to see Naruto leap at her and smash his fist through the table they were seated at. As she lands behind him and looks at him, she says, "What the hell is your problem, punk? If you want to fight, then let's take it outside." The guild was all listening, hopeful that they would have another reason to fight in the guild. He continues, "There are fox ears and okay, let's take it outside. I get to have a fight with my first demon. Just watch me, QB," as he jumps out the window to the back of the guild. What the hell does he have cat ears? She wonders, pointing to his head. After listening to Elfman for the last 30 minutes about how she should calm down when she fights, Mira Jane looked at this kid as if he were crazy, but she wasn't about to pass up a good fight. She had been in a fighting mood, and this fox brat was going to be her outlet. "I'm not a demon, you stupid brat, but that doesn't mean that I won't have some fun beating you into the ground," she said as she assumed a fighting stance. As he got on his hands and knees once more, he said, "But you smell like a demon, so I'm going to take you out." She said, "What the hell magic did you say would ever come at me?" as a dark purple magic seal appeared beneath her. "Take over Satan's soul," she said, as her arms and legs turned black, her hair began to spike up, and her features began to turn more feral and wild. Demon slaying magic bougie cloak first tail. She jumped over it and tried to sidekick him, but Naruto ducked underneath it and backhanded her, sending her flying back a few feet. "This is going to be a good fight," Naruto said as he ran at her again, swining with his left. "Black lighting," she said, shooting lighting at him, but Naruto was caught in it despite her attempt to jump to the left. As he gained a second tail, he said, "That was a good shot. I think that I should take this to the next level." "You think that just because you have another tail that you are going to beat me," Mirajane said, charging at him and slamming down at his head before he disappeared from view and she felt a clawed hand on the back of her head. Just before he slams her straight to the ground, he whispers into her ear, "The tail symbolizes what I can do in that state. This one is built for speed." He leaps into the air, and two seals materialize in both of his hands. "Demon Slayer Magic Rasengan Barrage," he says as he begins to descend when he sees Ezra charging at him. She asks, "What did I tell you about killing people?" as a blood-red sword emerges and slashes at Naruto's strike, which he cancels, flips them over, and falls next to her. A clear magic seal appears over her wristband. As he pointed to Mirajane, who was getting up and staring at him with bloodlust, he continued, "I promised that I wouldn't kill a human, but she smells like a demon and she even looks like one right now. That's it, punk. I'm going to kill you," she shouted, with black lights crackling all around her. Ezra tells him, "That's her magic. She isn't a demon, she just uses a form of magic that makes her take the look and power." "Oh," he says, realizing, then turns to face the girl who is now rushing at them. "Should I let her beat me up or can I knock her out before she kills me? I'm still not used to interacting with people," he asks her. As her blade transforms back into the bracelet, she tells him, "Stop the attack and I will try to talk her into calming down." "You got it," he says, making his palm large enough to grip Mirajane and prevent her from moving at all. As she tries to move but is unable, she screams, "What the hell kind of magic is this?" Naruto responds, "Now that I have a better whiff of you, I can smell that you are human even though you also smell like a demon." "Why is that?" As more black sparks erupted from her, she exclaims, "I just take over magic, you idiot, now let me go so that I can kill you." One of the sparks was headed for Ezra, but Naruto blocked it with his hand. "That tickles. There is no way that you are a demon if I can make it one-sided with only two tails," Naruto said, beginning to take off his Biju cloak. As she and a few other children and adults emerged, a young girl said, "Let go of my sister." A man who was the same height as Naruto approached him and said, "Now young man, let go of my child or I will be forced to take action." Only Naruto could see the magic he was repressing, and he knew that even if he went to a four-tail straight, he wouldn't be able to defeat him. Naruto sniffs the air once more and looks at the two other white-haired children. "You smell like demons too, why is that?" Naruto asks as all of his magic recite back and Mirajane falls on her ass. "I'm sorry sir, on my friend's behalf, this is actually just a misunderstanding," Ezra begins to say. "I don't see how coming out of nowhere and attacking my sister is just a misunderstanding," the little girl says again. "Young man, why do you keep calling them demons? They're children that live at the guild." The man responds, "Well, they smell like QB, so I thought that was what a demon smelled like, but they also smell like humans at the same time." Naruto replies as he faces them. When Mirajane gets back up and puts her magic away, she says, "You are more of a demon than I am with that power of yours. We are her brother and sister, we are called the Takeover Siblings," the boy says as he steps next to his sister. Naruto's ears and tail cause everyone at the guild to go squinting. "I apologize for that again, and just so you know, I'm a demon slayer, not a demon." Naruto smiles and asks, "Well, young man, what's your name and that of your friends, and why are you here?" Ezra points to Mirajane and says, we came here to join the guild and we're about to go and talk to the guild master before Naruto attacked that girl over there. I apologized to Ezra again, but I thought she was a demon, and my father told me to slay all demons if I found any. Well, if you were looking for the guild master, then you found him, that would be me. My name is Makarov, but the kids just call me Gigi, Naruto said defensively, putting an arm around Ezra's shoulder and smiling foolishly once more. He held his hand out to him and said, I don't see why not you were able to best Mirajane in combat and we will need someone to keep an eye on you. Thanks Gigi, Naruto said, but then his head shot up as if he was forgetting something. Oh that's right, he said as he disappeared from view and kneeled in front of the takeover siblings. Mirajane angrily asked him, what do you want punk? Naruto simply dragged his fingernail across his palm, drawing blood, and then placed his hand on her head. What the hell are you? She began, as a blood-red magic seal materialized beneath them both. Demon slaying art minor regeneration, he said, as his Biju cloak wrapped around him and then spread out to her. What the hell get off of me, she yelled, before feeling extremely warm. When the young girl said, what are you doing to her? And reached for him, she felt a hand on her wrist and turned to see a person with red hair and two different colored eyes staring at her. Just wait, if you touch him now, he might accidentally hurt her, just watch, Ezra told her. She nodded, and they all watched as Mirajane was now fully engulfed in the same red energy that Naruto was. They saw a joyful smile appear on her face as all of her wounds healed before their very eyes, and she began to fall while Naruto knelt down while they were both sitting, his hand still on her head. The red energy returned to Naruto after the wounds were healed, and he ended up falling back on his ass while panting. Ezra moved beside him and pretended to be the back of a chair while he looked at Mirajane, who was staring at her arms in shock at what had happened. Why did? She began, but was unable to finish. Wait, I thought that you ate this morning before I woke up, you were lying to me, Ezra said, half tempted to strangle the boy but also grinning warmly at his generosity. Naruto laughs and explains, I was the one that hurt you so I thought that I should be the one that healed you but I guess that it was not a great idea to do on an empty stomach. You have the strength to protect and you also help without a second thought. When we get you used to human society you will be a perfect asset to Fairy Tail. Makarov stated with a grin on his face. Why did you heal me? I still don't get it, you tried to kill me 1 second and then another you heal me, what is wrong with you? Mirajane inquired. With Ezra's assistance, Naruto stood up a little and said, because I wrongly hurt someone that will be part of my family so I thought that it would be right to heal you. You are not part of my family, she replied bitterly, but I don't mean your blood family, I mean your family at Fairy Tail. From what Gigi said I would imagine that we are all family here. Naruto grinned and muttered, you're a cousin. Who, she said, bewildered, twice removed, she said as she entered, followed by her siblings. Naruto asks, how about I get that for you? By the way, my name is Kana. The girl with short white hair is Lisana, and the boy is Elfman. A girl with brown hair approaches them and helps Ezra carry Naruto. Well, how about we get some food in you before you pass out, she asks. After hearing their names, they turned around and waved back at them before making their way to their table. The female Kana escorted them to the bar, where they began eating, with Ezra receiving a piece of strawberry cake and Naruto receiving a large bowl of ramen. As Ezra took a bite of the strawberry cake and Naruto took a sip of the ramen, they both had stars replace their eyes. This is great, I think I'm in heaven, said Ezra, as he began to gobble up the ramen. This is better than anything I have ever had before, she said, savoring every bite as if it were the last. Kana remarked, it looks like you two are enjoying that. Please don't hold back on eating, we can get you some more if you want. Naruto, setting down the ramen dish that appeared to have been licked clean, replied, sweet thanks Kana, we will definitely take you up on that. Naruto was about to panic when he saw that the cake on her plate was gone, but instead he just laughed a little as he placed his plate of cake on top of hers and took her ramen bowl. He turned to face Ezra and saw that she was crying and had a fork hanging out of her mouth. By the way, we should get you out of those rags that you are wearing now, Makarov said as he approached the children on the bar. Alright, I'm fine with that, but how are you accepting me so easily? Naruto asked, his ears perking up in curiosity. Well, my boy, even though you look a little different you still have a big heart and that is what matters here in Fairy Tail, he said with a smile. Her eyes lit up when he did that, and she began to eat it again while Naruto gobbled up the remaining food. As he pointed to the guild symbol on everyone, Naruto said, thanks Gigi, oh yeah, what is that symbol that I see on everyone? That is the guild symbol that represents us and links us, if you were to join you would get one as well, he said to him. Definitely, please Gigi let us join, I want to have a new family that I can protect, Naruto said. But what of your friend there? What if she doesn't want to join? I already said that you could, but I want both of you to be sure that this is what you want, he said to them. As long as I am with Ezra I don't mind where I go, and you guys already treat me like family, so I would like to stay here, but if Ezra doesn't then I'm going to be going with her, Naruto said while staring at Gigi. Naruto is one of the first people that I came to trust, and even though I have only known him for a short time I already know that I can trust him with my life, so I will stay here too, Ezra told Makarov. Makarov asks two of the siblings, alright then, that is good to hear. Mirajane Elfman, would you mind coming over here for a moment? When they approach, Naruto looks at the boy more closely, and he can already tell that he is close to his sisters and has a shy personality by the way he walks behind his tomboy sister. Would you two mind helping them get some proper clothes for now? He asks them. Fine, come with me, Tomato Head, Mary Jane says as she walks to the back of Fairy Tail. Ezra gets a tick mark on her head, and she was about to attack her for the remark, but she felt Naruto's tail wrap around her waist and turned to face him. He smiles warmly and says, don't let her get to you, just go with her and get a good change of clothes. She blushed a little at what he was doing, but then nodded as she got off the stool and followed Mirajane. Now then, Elfman was it. Let go. You're going to help me get clothes for myself, right? Naruto said as he stepped in front of him. Yes, that's right, come with me, he said as he went down the same hallway that his sister and Ezra had just taken, turning left into a room. You do know that you don't have to be nervous with me like you or I'm not going to attack you. I only did that earlier because of your sister smelling like a demon. Now that I know that you are not, I'm not going to attack you, Naruto said to him as they entered the space. Sorry for not believing you right away, it's just that after you being able to beat my sister with little problem I'm a little bit weary of you, Elfman replied to him. As they stood in front of a wardrobe, Naruto asked, well, don't worry, you will get stronger just in time, so what do you think that I should wear? I think that you should just choose what you want. All of these are spare clothes that I have and they should fit you, he said to Naruto as he began to leave the room. Okay, thanks, I'll be out there in a minute, Naruto replies, grabbing some clothes. Wearing plain gray jeans and gray hiking boots, Naruto is dressed in a black shirt with wolves all over it and a silver moon over his heart. I think that this should work well, but I still couldn't find anything that had a fox on it. Oh well, wolf look like foxes, Naruto remarked as he came down the hall. I found out what magic I'm going to us, and also I just want to wear this, Ezra said, unable to explain the true reason in front of everyone. When he arrived, he saw the takeover siblings reassembling at their table and then saw Ezra waiting for him at the end of the hall, dressed in a white dress and brown shoes with a chest plate. Ezra, why are you wearing a chest plate? Asked Naruto. When he held out his hand to her, Naruto smiled and said, really, what kind of magic are you going to choose? The master said that I will be able to use equip magic, and the preference I chose is the knight that has a good balance between attack and defense, she said to him. Cool, I'm trusting you to watch my back, alright Ezra. I will, she said, taking his hand and shaking it. A blue healed guy says to the master, hey master, they're back, we should bring them their symbols now. Alright, Macau, thank you for telling me, says Makarov, approaching the two buddies. Alright, so what color would you like your symbols to be and where? Make mine red and on my right forearm, Makarov requests. Naruto responds by holding out his arm to him. Alright, then here you go, he says, slamming the stamp onto his arm, and a moment later, he has the fairy tale symbol on his arm. A blue one on my left shoulder if you wouldn't mind, Ezra says, holding out her left arm, and a second later, she has the same thing. He waves them off, saying, well, then two are officially part of Fairy Tail. Haha yay, well, it looks like we have about 2 hours before it's time to go to bed. What do you want to do? Naruto asks Ezra. I would like to go and train, she replies to him, and the two of them leave, not realizing that they have 3 small, white-haired siblings behind them as they make their way into the woods. As they arrive, Ezra draws her short sword from around her waist and aims it at Naruto. I'm ready, she says, her eyes narrowing as she looks down at him. All right, then, Naruto replies, wrapping his hands in red energy to create claws. She yells, here I come, and lunges at Naruto, who jumps aside and slashes down at her. She rolls to the side and kicks at him, and he blocks the kick with his arm, sending him flying 10 feet and landing on top of a tree branch. Wow, you have come a long way in such a short time, he says to her as he drops down and envelops his leg in energy as he axe kicks at her. She raises her sword to block, and slides the kick along the sword, rerouting the attack at the ground. Then she feels a hand on the side of her face as she begins to hit the ground head first, but stops just inches from impact. As he lies down on her right side, Naruto smiles and says, looks like it is my win again. Damn it, why can't I beat you? Ezra asks, lying flat on the ground and staring up at the sky with anger in her eyes. Don't be mad, Ezra. I would be surprised if you were able to last for 5 minutes in a spare with me actually. Why is that? I want to be strong enough to be able to watch your back, she says to him, looking. You want to be able to watch my back but you don't think that you are strong enough. That's stupid, Naruto tells her. She says to him angrily, how is it stupid that I want to be able to help you, Naruto? You are my best friend and I have to always rely on you when things go bad. And what is wrong with that? He asks her, shocked. If you want to get strong then get stronger. It will take a while to do it but you will with time. You don't need to rush into it, but I know that one day you will be able to watch my back. But even right now I trust you to do that no matter how weak you are. But if I'm not strong enough to watch your back, what's the point in you letting me if I can't do it? She asks him, now desperate for an answer. If someone is going to watch my back in a mission that we do, I will only want one that I trust and not a strong person that I don't, and I trust you with my life so you're perfect, she says to Naruto, who responds, alright thanks Naruto. I will try to do my best and I will be watching your back always. I will be counting on it now. Don't you think that we should all be going back to the guild? Naruto said as a tiny magic symbol appeared on his finger and a miniature Biju bomb appeared. She asks, looking in the direction he was pointing. He fired the bomb, and it exploded in a red light, and 5 seconds later, the takeover siblings landed directly on top of each other in front of Naruto and Ezra, who were now standing side by side with a sinister scowl in their eyes. One chance. Why were you spying on us? Asked Naruto, cracking his knuckles, while Lasana said, we weren't spying on you per se, observing. Elfman was laughing uncomfortably, rubbing the back of his head, and Mirajane TSKS to the side, avoiding eye contact. Naruto began to walk back, saying, well whatever, let's go back to the guild. If it gets too late we might get attacked by animals. What are you scared of, some little forest critters? Mirajane asked, with a sly smile on her lips. I'm not, but your siblings might, and what if they got hurt? I know that you might not like me, but I know that you care about them, he said, continuing to walk. You should just listen to him and come with us, Ezra said sternly, following Naruto. God damn it, Mirajane muttered as she followed them, with her siblings right behind her. When they all return to the guild, it is dark outside, and a man is standing outside. Where were all of you? I was about to go out and look for you, Makarov says sternly. Sorry, Gigi. Naruto said, I didn't think it would take this long to get back. That's because you kept on making wrong turns the whole way here. What the hell is with your sense of direction? Mirajane said, with a tick mark on her head. Well, he was trying, Ezra said, bowing her head in apology to the guild master. That doesn't make any difference if it took an extra hour to get here and you never let me lead because you said it was a learning experience, she replied to her. And we had to add another half hour for me to break you two up every time you wanted to go at it. Naruto replied to her with a grin. Shut up, I'll kill you, she said as black sparks began to fly out at her. Now both of you, I understand what happened and I'm just glad that all of you are back and safe, but Naruto, next time you leave tell someone. Alright, we are family and the guild will worry. If Kana didn't ask me where you were I wouldn't have thought about it until now, the fox boy replied. Alright, I will be more careful next time. Sorry about this, he replied to him. No harm done, but I do have some bad news. We only have one room open with the short notice that we were given, so do you mind sleeping in the same room? Makarov inquired. I don't mind. On the days that we were traveling here we had to sleep together anyway, so one more night shouldn't be all that bad. Is that okay with you, Ezra? Naruto inquired. I do not mind one more night, that will not be a problem, the master replied. The siblings were asked by Makarov, goodbye. Tomorrow we will have a room for you, I promise, but how about some sleep? Would you mind taking them to the spare room for me, you three? Mirajane passed them and entered the guild without saying anything, and Naruto appeared a little dejected until she turned around and asked, well, are you two coming or not? As she entered the back of the guild once more. Naruto brightened as he began dragging Ezra with him to follow her. While Mirajane wanted to fight Ezra too, but was unable to do so because a certain blonde fox was like her own guard dog. They both thought at the same time, you can, but only as a spare, no serious hurting each other. Naruto said to Ezra, and she blushed in embarrassment as she forgot about the mental link that they shared. Ezra was still unable to figure out what it was about Mirajane that irritated her, but being with Naruto calmed her down enough to refrain from attacking her. When Mirajane opened the door with her foot and walked away to her and her siblings' room, they saw that there was a large queen-size bed to the right and a wardrobe across the room from it, but other than that, the room appeared to be fairly normal. Naruto, I need your assistance, Ezra said as he closed the door. Sure, what it is, he said as he approached her. Help me get this chest plate off. There is a band that I can't seem to reach, she said, pointing to the one on the back of her neck. He simply nodded and untrapped it, causing the armor to fall to the ground with a clang and a thud. Ezra looked at Naruto's face, which was twisted in agony. She was perplexed. She then looked down at his foot, which now had a red line where the armor had fallen, and he calmed down and let out a feeble, "Ow." She ended up laughing uncontrollably, with anime tears hanging in his eyes. "Why are you laughing at my pain?" He whims. "I know it is not a nice thing to do, but if you could see your face right now you would understand," she says, wiping a tear from her eye and sitting on the bed. She nods to him as she lies down on the bed with Naruto next to her. He wraps his tail around her stomach, causing her to giggle a little before smiling at the comforting familiarity of her friend's close proximity. "Ezra, why do you wear that armor when you are with people but with me you don't?" Naruto asks bluntly. "Well, since you are done laughing at me, do you want to go to bed?" he asks. She adds to him in a whisper, "I don't trust them, but even though you want to fight Mirajane, you can see that they are good people." "Naruto, I don't want to be hurt again," he says to her worriedly. She told him, "You saved me from that place, so I can trust you to not have to protect myself, but I feel that I need to protect my heart from getting that hurt again. If you weren't there, I don't know that I would have done." She closed her eyes to contain the tears. She felt a body lean on her with a chin on her head after she felt something wrap around her. As he licks her forehead, Naruto says, "Take all the time that you need, Ezra, but no matter what I will always be with you, alright? That is a promise of a lifetime." She is a little upset that he licked her rather than kissing her, but then she remembers that she was the first human he had ever met, so he still didn't do well with human way of doing things. She then considers this, realizes how nice it is, and gives him a hug in return, saying, "Thank you, Naruto," as she drifts off to sleep. Naruto grinned and went to sleep, not realizing that they would be confronted with an incredible surprise the following day. The following morning when they were sleeping, Naruto and Urza were still close next to each other, unaware that this was a no.no for young children. Naruto because he lived with animals until the start of this week, and Urza because she spent her entire existence in the Tower of Heaven. In one of Naruto's dreams, he was surrounded by an endless supply of ramen and could eat it non-stop. The sound of the door opening roused him. His eyes snapped open, and he found himself on his hands and knees, guarding Urza while he watched the door open. Urza was staring at him, perplexed by the abrupt movement, but she noticed the door opening and realized he was being jittery. She placed a hand on Naruto's head and reassured him, "Don't worry, it's just someone from the guild. They're good people, remember you don't need to be protective." Her touch startled him, but he relaxed when he noticed a familiar brown-haired girl scanning the room. "Sorry if I woke you up, I was just going to tell you that I was going to eat breakfast and I was wondering if you two wanted to eat with me," Kana said. She nodded and shut the door when Urza remarked, "We will be there in a moment. Wait outside if you do not mind." Naruto got up first, went to the closet, and checked to see if there were any clothing they could wear. He saw that Urza had panties for herself and another dress that was identical to the one she was wearing. He was wearing red jeans and a plain black shirt on the opposite side. After flinging his garments upon the bed, he saw Urza rising. Naruto told her as he went outside, "I'll be right outside so that you can change. Just tell me when you are done so that I can change too." As he stepped outside, he noticed Kana grinning at him from the side of the door. She said to him, "Hello again. Did you two sleep well?" "We slept okay thanks, but I have no idea where I will be able to sleep tonight," stated Naruto. The master said that he was looking for a palace but couldn't decide on one yet. She told him. Naruto said, "I wonder if I should find a job somewhere here." "You could just take a request, then it will give you the money that you need to have a house, and until you get the right amount of money I don't think that the master minds you being here," Kana told him. Although Naruto grinned at the thought, he was still unsure of what a quest actually was. At this, Kana simply grinned and made the decision to assist him. "Why don't you come with me on a quest that I was going to do today? If you want you can bring Urza with us," she replied. "Alright, thanks for the help. What is the quest that you were going to go on anyway?" asks him. "I was supposed to fight a Vulcan that was attacking a nearby village. We should be back by tonight or tomorrow morning," she said him. Urza looks at Naruto as his head emerges from the door at that very moment. She turns back to face him and says, "I need your assistance," he says to Kana as he enters the room. "I'll talk to you when we are eating breakfast." "Okay." Urza is gripping her chest plate when he enters, but he is having trouble getting the hook in the rear to stay in place. Naruto clicks the final buckle back on and adds, "Here, let me do it." As she begins to leave the room, Naruto grabs her hand and says, "Thank you, Naruto. I will wait outside for you as you change." He says to her, "Wait Urza. I have a quick question for you." She asks him, "What is it?" He asks her whether she would mind going on a mission with him and Kana. With a resolute expression in her eye, she nods her head after briefly freezing. She smiles and tells her, "Thanks, I might be able to buy myself a place to live with this." She appears a little depressed about her friend's desire to live independently and begins to suspect that he may not want to spend time with her. However, Naruto notices this and gives her a kind grin. But it might take a few jobs for me to be able to get that place to stay, so if I'm not imposing on you, would you mind if I stayed with you until then? She replies to him. I do not mind, Naruto, but I wonder if the master will let that, she replies inquisitively, adding a smile. She walks away when he tells her, well, we will ask him later. Now, give me a minute to change so that we can go and eat breakfast. After hurriedly taking off his old clothing and putting on the new ones, he discovers that his tail is still visible and that the shirt isn't loose enough to conceal it. The words, "This might be a problem," are spoken as he leaves. Kana and Urza say, "Hello Naruto," to him. As they all begin to make their way to the guild's main area, he adds, "Hello to both of you, so let's go and eat some food." Naruto observes right away when they arrive that there are significantly fewer people here. Kana asks, "So what will you guys have?" "I don't know what the foods are called, I just eat something depending if it smells good or not," adds Naruto. Ezra only gives a nod of agreement. "Alright then, how about we all have some eggs and bacon then," she said. The two simply shrugged and went to a table after her. She shouted the meal as they sat down, and a man with blue hair brought them 3 plates of it along with some milk. He smiles and adds, "Enjoy," returning to the table where he was sitting with a man puffing on a pipe. "Thanks Macau," Kana exclaims as she begins to eat. Urza and Naruto initially stare at the dish in perplexity, but after giving it a sample, their expressions brighten. They say, "It's good," as they begin to devour it. They eat in silence until they are all finished, and Kana smiles as she continues to devour her portion. They exchange glances after saying, "Thanks for the food." "Alright, well, from what I was told we are going to be fighting a big ape thing, right?" replies Naruto. Urza tells him, "Yes, that is what we have to do. It's called a Vulcan, Naruto." "Well, you know what you have to do, but here is the twist to it. We will get 25,000 for completing the job, but we get a 5,000 jewels bonus if we get it alive and give it to the sheriff there," Kana said them. Naruto tells them, "If I find the scent, it shouldn't be that difficult, it should take an hour. Remember Naruto alive and do damage to the surrounding area and we get the whole thing of money, understand?" Urza tells him. He tells her, "You got it, Urza. I'll be careful and hold back on it." Kana was worried that they wouldn't have enough power to take this thing out, so she was going to ask a seasoned mage to accompany them, but as she heard them talk about him not killing the thing, a huge drop of sweat was forming on her head. "Naruto, what magic do you use?" "I know card magic," asks Kana. Naruto told her, "I use demon slaying magic and Urza is learning how to use equip magic. I never heard of that type of magic before, but if you were able to beat Mirajane with it you must be strong," she tells him. "The thing that scares me about his magic is that he was still holding back on her," Urza tells Kana. Kana looks at him in disbelief and says, "You held back on Mirajane? Oh god, don't let her hear that or she will fight you every chance she gets to beat the hell out of you." Naruto glances at Urza and declares, "I don't mind if she gets better, I'll fight her whenever she wants, and then I'll have 2 training buddies." "I do not mind, but how much were you holding back? You never said how strong you could get," Naruto replies to Urza. Kana asks, "What is the difference between tails?" Naruto responds, "Well, I can go up to a 5-tailed Biju cloak, but I can't control it that well. Right now, the best I can do is 4 tails." As he counts off his fingers, he tells them, "Let's see, the first tail gives me high regeneration ability, second tail gives me highest speed, third tail is good for defense, and fourth tail gives me overwhelming attack." Naruto looks at Urza and tells her, "I can also share these qualities to people that I form a bond with." "That is really powerful, but what if you were supposed to fight something at a distance? I only saw the end of the fight, but I saw that you only attacked close range even when Mirajane attacked you with Evil Spark." Kana replied to him, "Well then I have Biju Bomb and Biju Cannon. Both are too strong to us on someone that I am trying to just defeat. They're used to destroy an entire area," he tells her. "So Kana, what does card magic do exactly?" asked Naruto inquisitively. "Well, it can be used to us a lot of different elements that are trapped inside of the cards that I use, and if I combine them I can get powerful combinations," she said proudly. He was holding that much in his comment, and if he ever goes berserk, he will end up destroying the town, Urza and Kana thought. As he began to brainstorm ways to collaborate, Naruto muttered, "Well, let's see, you can be the long-range support and me and Urza can be the close range." "Then that settles it, let us go to the destination," Urza said, getting up from her seat. "Right behind you. Kana, hurry up, we will leave without you," Naruto said as he began to leave the room, and she said, "I'm right behind you," as she also got up and went to them. But then the doors suddenly flew open, and a little boy with pink hair yells, "IGNEELLLL, are you here?" as he frantically searches the guild, asking, "Igneel, Why does that sound familiar? Naruto watches as the boy enters and begins to flip over everything in search of something, flipping the table where Mirajane and her siblings were eating and then throwing the food in her face. What the hell, brat? I'm going to kill you, she yells, and black sparks begin to shoot out of her, and the entire guild thinks, oh god, he is dead. Naruto asked, oh goddamn it, Urza, do you think that I should save him? Mirajane transformed into her Saiyan soul form and slammed the pink-haired boy across the guild and through the wall into the back. He brought this on himself, but she might kill him. You should stop this before it escalates any further, she said to him. Got it. He tells her as a blood-red magic seal with the Kyuubi's face in the middle, and Naruto grins maniacally. Mirajane, stop. I think I know why he is like this. He is looking for someone, Naruto says as he is once more covered in energy, disappears from everyone's view, and then reappears directly in front of the pink-haired child who was now logged into a tree. Naruto tries to explain, but she is in a blind rage after food was thrown in her face. Fine, you leave me with no choice then, sorry about this, Naruto says to her sadly as a seal reappears beneath him. Biju Cloak Tail 3, he says silently as a third tail emerges from his back, his features turning more feral and his eyes turning wild as he slams one of his tails into the ground. She lunges at him with evil sparks surrounding her, giving the impression that she is wearing black lightning armor. Calm down, please, I don't want to hurt you, Naruto says in a growling voice, stopping Mirajane with just a few inches of movement. Her eyes open in what he believes to be shock, but then they narrow again. You were holding back on my I'll kill you, she says, directing her hand towards her face. Naruto sighs and simply throws her to the ground with such force that it breaks the ground. Yes, I was holding back on you yesterday and you know why, because if didn't you would have died, he says to her icily. Her magic begins to fade, and Naruto kneels down beside her once more, reciting two of his tales as he stabs his hand with his nail once more, causing blood to start to trickle out. I will heal your injuries, but I will let the pain stay for a little while so that you do not follow me, for today I have something that I must do, Naruto tells her, adding, you are very strong and have the potential to get much stronger, but that is only if you live. Do you understand? I'm like this because if I wasn't I would have died long ago. As he begins to heal her as he had the last time, he says, demon slaying magic minor regeneration. His face was buried in the ground, so he was unable to see her smiling again at the warm sensation she was experiencing, but when he finished, she realized he wasn't joking as the wounds themselves were healed, but the pain was still present. Naruto thought, I'll see you later, Mirajane, as he walked to the child still in the tree. Lisana, Elfman, come and get your sister and bring her and the boy to the infirmary so that they can get some treatment, Naruto said, digging the pink-haired boy out of the tree. Elfman, come and get your sister and bring her and the boy to the infirmary so that they can get some treatment. How the hell did you do that? Kana exclaimed in shock as Naruto returned through the hole in the wall to meet Kana and Urza. Nice job, Naruto. Urza nodded to him. Thanks, Urza. And I just defended the kid for being an idiot, so I am a little shocked with myself, but Urza told me to make sure that he didn't die, so... Naruto trailed off. Elfman took the boy while his sister took Mirajane, and they both returned to the guild to receive treatment. Well, anyway, shall we go to the destination? Urza replied. Fine, but now I think that we are going to be fine. If Naruto was able to stop her that easily, a Vulcan won't even stand a chance. Kana replied with a grin on her face. I'll do my best, so lead the way, Naruto replied. Alright, but I figured with your gung-ho attitude you would want to lead, Kana replied. Well, I would like to, but the thing is that I don't have a very good sense of direction. My dad said that it is something like a curse to demon slayers, Naruto replied to her. Well then, that is all the more reason for you two for a team with someone then, Kana replied. What's a team? Naruto inquires. You form up with people in the guild and form groups that are only for a little while. Are you for a team that you are with permanently and are with all the time on requests that you go out on? Kana replied. That sounds like fun, but the only person I know well is Urza. Can we make a team with just 2 people? Naruto asks. Yes, you can, Kana tells him candidly. That's okay. Me and Urza can take out anything together because we trust each other to watch the others back. Naruto puts his arm over her shoulder and remarks, well, you two are very buddy-buddy, aren't you, as they stroll through town. Naruto smiles and says, well, I did a bond with her, so we are very close. That reminds me, you never explained what this is exactly, Urza tells him. Well, demon slayers can form bonds with people they care about, and depending on how strong they are, they can form a lot of bonds at once, Naruto says. What does a bond do exactly? Kana asks. Well, they allow me to be able to share my power with that person without limiting it for fear of my magic being rejected by him. They will also live as long as I do, and their bodies will be stronger, faster, and more capable of healing. At last, their magical abilities have been enhanced, and they are the only individuals with whom we can mate, Naruto concluded. What are you talking about? I wanted to heal your eye, but I couldn't do that unless I bonded with you, Naruto said, and you don't think that you could have consulted me about that when you made that bond with me, that you would be thinking about that. Until the very end, both girls were nodding their heads, thinking that this would be a great thing, but then their faces turned red as Urza's hair and steam came out of their heads. Urza stammered, "You didn't tell me about the mom mating thing. Wait, you know what that is? Can you tell me? QB never told me about it. He kept saying he would tell me when I was older, but then one day he up and left," Naruto said, and both Urza and Kana looked shocked. He knew about everything except that. Are you shitting me? Kana thought. I have to tell him what that is later, Urza thought. Kana asks, how does he know what you were thinking all the time? Is it because of the bond thing? Yes, that is. And the older we get, the stronger it will get, so no matter how far we are from the other, we can always keep in contact with the other, Naruto says, grinning as he hugs her. You will thank Urza, he says. Urza pats his head and whispers, don't worry, I'll tell you what it means tonight after the job. Yay, Naruto says as he lets go and is about to run in a circle when he hears something. Kana, where are we supposed to go for the request again? Naruto asks, and after blinking a few times, she looks around and realizes that they are only half a mile from the town. Wow. Time flies when you are having fun, Kana says, trailing off at the end. As a magic seal appears in his hands, Naruto says, get ready because I hear them. Wait, did you just say them? It was supposed to be only one of them, Kana says, as her hands begin to shake as she pulls out her cards. Can you say how many there are exactly? Urza asks Naruto as she pulls out her short sword from her hip in her left hand and her demon fox short sword in her right. I think that there are 7, so do you think that I can use my Biju cloak or no? Naruto asks as Rasengans appear in his hands. You can use first tail if things get bad, but that is as far as you are allowed to go. You will end up killing them if you use 2 tails, she says, glaring at a bush. There was a brief pause before 5 Vulcans suddenly jumped out at the group. Naruto jumped at 2 of them with a double axe, kicking them face first into the ground and then giving them each a Rasengan in the middle of their backs. A tiny explosion surrounded the 3 of them, and then Naruto leapt out of the smoke cloud, standing next to Kana. The Vulcans he hit were both out, their eyes swirling. Kana used a spell to distract them, Naruto asked, as a blood-red seal appeared beneath him. Oh okay, she said, pulling 2 cards out of the deck and pointing them at the sky. Card magic mist, she yelled, as a giant mist cloud descended upon them, covering them. Urza, meanwhile, leapt at one of them and slashed at its legs, immobilizing it. The Vulcan attempted to swing at her, but she leapt above the swing and slammed the hilt of her swords onto its head, knocking it out. When he was wearing his first-tailed cloak, Naruto said, I didn't mean Hydus, whatever it gave me the time I needed anyway. He concentrated his energy on his hands, making them bigger as he swung to his right and in front of him, grabbing Vulcans before clapping his hands together and knocking them out. That looks like it's all of them. I guess that I was wrong, Naruto said as he began to remove his Biju cloak. As she begins to jog toward Naruto, Kana exclaims, I guess so, but that was amazing how you were able to do that. Now I can see how you beat Mirajane, and you said that you can get even stronger than that at your age. That's amazing. Naruto, what are you doing? Pay attention. Urza yells as she lunges at him, and Naruto leaps to her and picks her up bridal style just in time to land a blow to the Vulcan, slashes at it in the temple with the flat sides of her blades. The mist cleared enough to reveal Naruto, a Vulcan leaping out of a tree about to attack Urza in the back. I know you said not to us it, but I have to, Naruto said as a magic seal appeared in front of his face. She had dropped her short sword and palmed it under the chin, sending it 10 feet into the air, landing on its head, twitching slightly but otherwise knocked out. You watch your own back, Naruto said jokingly as he sat up a little. Thanks for watching my back, Urza said as she begins to walk over to Naruto and Kana. Same here, and Kana, are you okay? When we got hit I don't think I blocked the whole hit, Naruto said, firing a small red energy ball at the Vulcan with the Demon Slayer magic Biju bomb. Urza turns around just in time to shield her face as the bomb hits, but instead explodes a few feet away, leaving the Vulcan in a small crater with scorch marks all over it. She was still trembling, but he saw no injuries on her. I guess that you were okay, he said as she let him down. She almost falls at first, but when her legs stop shaking, she stands in front of them. I'm sorry I screwed up and got you hurt, she says to Naruto, who puts his hand on her head and smiles foolishly. Don't worry about it, I heal fast, plus they might give us a big bonus for this, and none of us were seriously hurt, so it's fine, he tells her, giving her the thumbs up. As she began, Urza placed a hand on her shoulder and said, He says it is fine and nothing will ever go exactly as we are told sometimes, but we got through the mission, now we just need to go and get the village and give them the Vulcans. Alright, but how are we going to get them there? She asked, glancing at the 7 Vulcans on the ground and their size. Don't worry, I got this. Remember how I told you that my 4th tail was good at overwhelming force, right? Naruto said, and they both shook their heads. Kana looks at his arm and remarks, that kind of looks scary. I know, I hope that I won't have to use this in front of people, Naruto says honestly as he points his palm at all the Vulcans. Well, it's not me being strong, it's from me having a lot of things hitting you at one time, he said as a blood-red seal appeared on his right shoulder. Biju cloak tail 4 partial cloak, he says, his hand turning into a dark crimson with black entwined, as if the energy was moving all around it. Urza walked to Naruto's left and saw that he had a large bruise on his back and left arm, almost like he had broken bones. The girls were about to ask him what he was doing when his arm shot forward along with 6 others, grabbing the Vulcans and lifting them into the air. At this point, both of their jaws dropped and hit the floor, and Naruto was just grinning away. Kana, lead on, he says to the girl, and she shakes her head and begins to lead the way. Urza grinned and thanked her for her generosity. Don't tell her, but I believe I broke 3 ribs in my shoulder blade when I got hit by that punch. When we get to the village, I'm going to heal up. Naruto said to Urza. Okay, but if you find it hard to walk, just tell me and I will help you. They arrived at the village after 10 minutes or so, which was fortunate because Naruto was about to have Urza assist him in walking because the pain was beginning to get to him. Everyone's mouths dropped when they saw 7 fully grown Vulcans being carried by enormous red claws, all of which were emerging from one boy's arm, who was carrying them as if they were nothing. Kana, go and find the major, I'm going to put them down now, Naruto said as she began to drop them all in a circle in the center of town. All right, be back in a moment, she said as she hurried off to find the major. Naruto's arm recovered as he reached into his bag, took out some rope, and began tying up the Vulcan's hands and feet. Would you like some help? Urza asked. Yeah, thanks, he replied, tossing her half of the rope, and they carried on with their work. It will be dark in about an hour, and it will take 3 to return to the guild, so we should spend the night here. Naruto said to Urza in his mind. I will trust your judgment, but I want you to heal the second that we are at the cabin because those injuries will only get worse with time, she replied. When he reached the clearing, his jaw dropped and his eyes were the size of dinner plates. Who did, but the major began to ask, but he was unable to finish before another wanted to be answered first. You got it, he said to her as he tied up the final Vulcan. By this point, Kana was leading the major, and he still did not believe her story about a group of young children beating 7 Vulcans and bringing them all here. Urza approaches him and bows courteously, saying, Sir, we are from Fairy Tail and we are here with your request to take care of the Vulcan that was attacking your town. We will also require logging for the night. Do you recommend any place here? Urza asks him. Thank you, but I didn't think that there were that many of them, but I promised a reward, and for doing us an extra service you will also receive a bonus, he says to them. The major told the girl, I think that you should go to Dylan, he has a good place and he will give you food and logging on the house for what you did. Thank you very much, she said, nodding, and Naruto said, let's go and get some sleep. But first let me get your reward, the major said as he walked over to the city hall once more. After they waited outside for a short while, the major emerged from the hall carrying 2 bags, telling Urza, here is the 25,000 jewels promised for completing the assignment, and here is 35,000 jewels for bringing them all to us alive. We have 60,000 jewels in total, which is crazy for a D-rank request. I think I'll be going on quests with you from now on, Kana told them as she examined the bags. Well, let's go get some food and then sleep, I'm tired, Naruto said, yawning. I agree with him, if we turn in early we will be able to get back to the guild early in the morning, Urza said. Well, right this way, let me show you the way to the logging then, the major said as he led them back into the town. When they were nearly at the front of the town again, he stopped in front of a large inn called Dylan's Inn. Rather straightforward, isn't it? Kana joked. Well, as long as we get good logging, I do not mind, Naruto said. How many rooms should we get? Kana asked. I think 1 will be fine and they are holding us up for free, so I do not wish to inconvenience them any more than I must, Urza said. I'm okay with that, how about you, Kana? Naruto replied. As long as we get at least 2 beds I don't see a problem with that, she told them. Once they entered the room, it was relatively quiet, save for a few more people eating. I will talk to him for you, just go and get a seat so that you may be served, the major said as he walked over to the desk at the other side of the room. What are we going to get for dinner? Kana asked as she sat at a circle table. Naruto and Urza sat on either side of her and considered what they should eat. I think that we will just have whatever you have, Naruto said, and Kana simply shrugged before glancing at the menu and noticing that they had ramen. "Well, I see that they have ramen on the list," she said, and his eye brightened. "Ramen please." Naruto yelled to everyone in the location. Urza slapped him in the back of the head for his foolishness, but then remembered that he was seriously injured. "Sorry, Naruto, that was impulsive. Don't worry, I just need to heal after we eat, so don't be sad, okay?" She said to him. "Will you two stop doing that with your bond thing? It makes me feel left out," Kana complained. "Sorry, Kana just got into the habit of doing that, so what are you two going to eat?" Naruto asked them. "I think I'll have a salad with some steak," she said to him. "I will have the same as her," Urza said, looking at the menu, still not knowing what any of these things were. "Have as much as you want after the food, we can pay them if you feel like we should," Naruto said to Urza. She nodded joyfully as she motioned a waitress to take their order, and after they had finished eating and chatting, Naruto asked if they could have another cake to take with them tomorrow. They replied that someone would bring them one in the morning, and he thanked them and the waitress before showing them to their room, which had 2 beds and a nightstand between them. "Okay, you girls get changed, I will be waiting outside," Naruto said, and just before he left the room, Urza grabbed his hand. As she lifted her hair to reveal the buckle on the back of her neck, she asked, "Can you help me before you leave?" He said, "No problem," unhooking the buckle and jumping back a foot to avoid slamming the armor into his foot again. When it clanged to the floor, Urza gave her shoulders a quick rub before cracking her back. Naruto laughed at this and left the room so they could change in peace. "Cute, okay, give me a minute," Naruto says as she enters and pulls out his bag. He throws off his clothes, puts on new orange sweatpants and a gray sleeveless shirt, and then returns to the door to let the girls in. A few minutes later, Urza and Kana emerged wearing sleeping clothes, Urza in a bright red plan outfit, and Kana in dark blue pajamas with rainbow-colored flower patterns on them. Naruto asks, "So how do you want to do this? We have 2 beds and 3 people. I think it would be fine if you and I sleep in the same bed and Kana has the other bed," Urza says to Naruto. "I'm okay with that. How about you, Kana?" Naruto asks the brown-haired girl. "I am fine with it, but I just realized that we didn't take a shower all day today, did we?" Kana responds, "No, we didn't." Naruto nods and then notices a bathroom. "How about we take one tomorrow morning? We can take turns," Naruto asks. As she stands on the bed on the left, Urza says, "That is fine with me, so shall we go to sleep now?" Naruto nods his head in agreement and approaches the bed, ready to fall asleep. "That's fine. Whoever gets up first gets the shower first and then we go in the order of when we wake up," Kana explains. As he crawls onto his and Urza's bed, Naruto asks, "Naruto, may I ask you a question?" "Sure, what is it, Kana?" Naruto turns to the girl and asks, "Well, do you mind if I touch your ears and tail? Ever since I saw them, ever since I wanted to pet them really badly," she admits, laughing sheepishly. "I do not mind, but if I start making noises, just ignore me please." As Kana leaps with delight onto the bed beside him, she begins to rub his sensitive ears between her fingers, causing Naruto to shiver. "Naruto, your tail is wagging," Urza remarks, gently catching it between her palms. As he feels something deep in his throat, Naruto says, "Sorry Urza, it's just when someone touches my ears or tail like that it makes me feel really nice. It is not that I mind, it's just that I find it to be quite cute, just like a little fox," she says, beginning to gently brush his tail. He couldn't stop purring, which made both Urza and Kana jump a little at the noise, but they both thought it was adorable, so they carried on until Naruto asked them to stop. Assuming she was now harming her friend, Kana exclaims, "What, doesn't this feel good?" Naruto responds, "It does, but if that happens for too long, I tend to get animalistic and I might jump on you like an animal and I don't want to accidentally hurt you." As she hopped into her bed and covered herself, Kana said, "Okay, and you wanted to get to sleep anyway, well whatever, good night you two." Naruto said, "Well let's go to sleep too," turning off the light and lying down. Urza lay down beside him, and he felt her fidgeting and understood. He placed his tail over her stomach once more, and she felt better. She felt vulnerable when she wasn't wearing her armor, but when he did this, it gave her a sense of security knowing that her best friend was at her side. Urza tells him, "Wait, I thought you were going to heal. Don't worry, I heal in my sleep faster anyway, and with you being close to me it will go by faster," he says, lying on his side and smiling at her. "What do you mean?" Urza asks, her face beginning to flush once more. "The closer I am to the one that I bond with, the stronger my abilities are, so when you are close to me I am able to heal faster," Naruto says, enveloping Urza in a gentle embrace. Urza yawned, realizing how exhausted she was. "Tomorrow morning I promise, just go to sleep right now, the sooner you do that the faster you will learn what that means." Urza told Naruto, leaving no room for argument, that she was glad there was no light in the room because it was so red that she couldn't tell what a maid was now. I almost forgot. Can you tell me what a maid is now? Naruto smiled and nuzzled his cheek against her head, saying, okay, then good night. The following day, as the first person to wake up, Kana was ecstatic to see that Naruto and Urza were still asleep, but she was also overcome with sweat when she realized how close they were. Where the hell were they raised? They're way too close, and they aren't siblings, what the hell? Kana said, fighting the urge to face Palm, and then she went into the bathroom to shower. When she emerged, she was still wearing a towel and was ready to put on her clothes when she heard rustling. She glanced over and saw that Naruto and Urza were waking up, with Naruto sprawled out on the bed like a cat and Urza rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Good morning, Kana. You took a shower. I'll go take one now, Naruto said as he entered the bathroom, and she nodded before beginning to get dressed. Good morning, Kana. Is Naruto in the shower right now? Urza asked, slipping the dress over her head and grinning at her nod. Urza's face flushed red at the comment, but she shook her head in an attempt to calm herself down. He is a very special person to me, she said to herself as she stood up and slapped herself awake. You know that you two are really close, even closer than siblings. I think you wouldn't mind being his mate, Kana said darkly while laughing. In a panic, Naruto ran to Urza and said, I think that I made the shower angry. Don't worry, let me see what happened, she calmly said as she walked back to the bathroom with him. It's not angry, you just turned the heat too far so it felt boiling, Urza said as she fixed it for him. The bathroom door then slammed open, and Naruto ran out in only his boxers. Where did you get all these wounds? Urza asked him in shock, gesturing to touch them as if her eyes were playing tricks on her. This is when I went into civilization for the first time, training with Kyuubi and that big guy at the tower, Naruto said, looking at her bewildered. Urza's eyes widened in fear as she saw all the scars all over his arms and chest, only stopping slightly after his elbows. Urza asked him, wait, what happened when you went into civilization for the first time? As he looked at her new red eye. I need to help teach you how to act in human society when we get back to the guild, Urza said to him, a drop of perspiration on the side of her face. Well, when I was in the middle of learning the Biju cloak, I was attacked by the villagers from the nearby village and they tried to kill me and they thought I was the demon's offspring, Naruto said to her. I thought that trying to kill was a form of greeting for people, and when I first met you I was going to do that, Naruto said to her. He couldn't comprehend the sadness of losing a friend, but he knew that when Kyuubi left, he felt miserable, but then he met Urza and made his first friend, which eased the pain. Thanks Urza for being here, Naruto says to her quietly. There is no reason to thank me, I am just here as a friend should be, she responds to him with a hint of sadness in her voice. I promise that I will help you get that other friend back to you, he says to her with a sorrowful smile. She said, now take a shower so that I can. He nodded and proceeded to wash his hair, both body and tail, while holding another towel with his wet tail as he walked over to Kana. Can you give me a hand? And Urza, the bathroom's open, Naruto said as he held out the towel to Kana. Sure, she said, taking the towel and beginning to dry his tail. He began to shiver uncontrollably, but after a while, he put on another black shirt and red pants with some rips on the bottom of the legging. Oh right Naruto, when you were in the shower I went next door to get this for you, Kana said, pulling out a red clock with a black flame pattern around the edging. Thanks, but why would you get this for me? Naruto inquired. Well, let's face it, you saved us big time yesterday, and when we got here to the village I noticed you trying to hide your tail but you couldn't, so I got this for you to help hide your ears and tail. She smiled at him. Thank you Kana, but I did that because we are friends and Urza said you were supposed to protect your friends. Naruto replied to her. Well then, as a friend I am giving this to you as a gift for helping me, she smiled at him. Thanks, this will come in handy, he says to her as he looks at her, and she jumps back in shock. Sorry, did I do something? He asks, reaching out to her. Oh, it's nothing, it's just that with your eyes shaded like that they look like they were glowing and it scared me a little, she says to him. He smiled and tried it on, tying the stings around the collar and covering most of his hair with the hood. He grabs his belongings and begins to put them away, saying to her, oh, okay, let's get our stuff put together so that we can leave when Urza gets out. After about 20 minutes, they were finished, and Urza had changed into another blue dress and taken a shower. Naruto helped her put on her armor once more, and she strapped her short sword onto her hip. They all had their packs with them, including the 2 bags of money, and when they got downstairs, Naruto told them to wait while he went to the girl behind the bar, returning with 3 boxes. Urza, a little irritated that he might be spending his money on things he doesn't need yet, asks Naruto, what are those? It's some strawberry cake that I asked them to make yesterday, they gave me 2 extra for helping the village on the house, he says to her, and her eyes change from cold and irritated to little stars with a little drooling. Don't worry, you can eat some later on the way back to the guild, let's go, Naruto says as he begins to lead the way. Naruto, wait, you were bad with directions. Remember, just follow me, Kana says as she begins to jog after him, Urza right behind her. Kana tells Naruto, you spoil Urza too much, because if she eats cake all the time, she will get fat. If she works out enough, she can eat anything she wants to, so when we get back, Urza and Mirajane are going to go and train again. Plus we also have to figure out what was up with that kid that barged in yesterday, Naruto tells her. Well, I guess you were right. Well, whatever, let's go, she says, taking the lead, followed by Urza. They chat about various topics before returning to the guild, where two white-haired people are waiting at the entrance. Hi Gigi, Mirajane, Naruto shouts, waving his hand while grinning as he pulls off the hood of his cloak. Welcome back, my boy and Kana. Do you mind if we talk a little? Makarov asks her in a menacing tone, and Kana begins to respond, I can explain, but he stops her with his hand. What were you thinking, Kana? You left on a quest with 2 new members. I know Naruto is strong for his age, but you never know what will happen on a request. You could have been hurt, he says to the girl. She gives out a bag to him and says, well, this is the payment for the quest. You finished it, and what would that bag be? Kana tells him, the bonus for taking down the Vulcan without killing it. He asks her, well, how much was taken out for damage? She responds, none, to him. Makarov said in surprise, well, it was your first time alone, so it can't be helped. Wait, did you say none? Kana holds up a larger bag and adds, yes, and there were 7 Vulcans, not 1 here is the bonus for taking them down without killing them either. She cheerfully tells him, we got 60,000 jewels in total. Mirajane is staring at them in disbelief. She could defeat that many Vulcans on her own without causing any harm. Yes, Naruto took out 5 of them and Urza took out 2. I was actually the burden to them, Kana replied meekly. You weren't useless. If you weren't there we wouldn't have been able to get to the place without you, and your magic helped even if you didn't do any attacking spells, Urza said her. She grinned as Naruto told her, that's right. Makarov approached Naruto and hugged him while sobbing anime tears. Thank you so much. After 20 years of having to deal with paperwork I don't have to do any for the first day in years, he tells him. As he tries to escape his death hug, Naruto tells him, no problem, if you want I can do that without damage if you need me to, but it might make it harder in the future. Please do, he says to him. Naruto asks him, oh right, may I speak with that boy that came here yesterday? Makarov was about to answer, yes, I think he is, when there was a loud crash. Someone shouted, what did you say to me, Popsicle? Another shouted, you heard me, flame breath. The words, God damn it, not again, came out of Mirajane's mouth as she fled back into the guild. As the group rushes in after her, they ask, what was that? When he sees ice and fireballs hurtling in their direction, Naruto swats them both away before they can harm anyone. As she begins to blast sparks at him in an attempt to knock him out once more, Mirajane exclaims, what the hell, brat? The second you wake up you get into a fight with Gray. What's your damage? Naruto removes his Biju hood and says, Urza, can you get the Gray kid? I'll try to calm down the other one. As she rushes towards the child with the blue hair, she says, okay. Kana is given the cake and cloak boxes by Naruto, who asks her to keep them safe for a moment. Then he rushes at the boy with the pink hair who is attracting his attention. Naruto punches him in the stomach and slams him to the ground, saying, calm down, you are breaking our guild. As a blazing magic symbol emerges over his hands, the boy screams, I will not calm down till I find Ignil. As he sidesteps the boy's blows, Naruto asks, now I think I remember where I heard that name. Is Ignil a dragon by any chance? The boy shouts, you know Ignil, where is he? As he pushes the youngster into the ground once more, Naruto asks, a dragon came to talk to Kyubi a year ago and said that his name was Ignil and I would get along with his student Natsu. Would that be you? As he tries to leap at him once more, Natsu cries, it is. Now tell me where he is. Naruto uses more magic to make his hand grow larger before grabbing the boy. Naruto smiles and replies to him, so you are him, then if you calm down I will tell you everything that I know. Naruto instantly stops thrashing and gives a nod. Naruto releases him and sits in front of him, saying, all right then. What I know is that Ignil left after a short while and so did Kyubi. I was not told where or why, but if Kyubi left I knew that it was because he had to, not because he wanted to, Naruto replies. Natsu clutched his scarf and cast a sorrowful glance down. Naruto removed a necklace from his shirt and showed it to him, saying, see, he did care for you if he gave you something to remember him by, just like Kyubi for me. P.S. This is the scarf that Naruto received from Tsunade. I am just guessing, but are you a dragon slayer then? Naruto said. Natsu's face brightened and he gave a joyful nod. Naruto got up and extended his hand to Natsu, saying, well, then we are fellow slayers then. Naruto said, Naruto QB Demon Slayer, nice to meet you, as his ears perked up and he gazed with joy while wagging his tail. Natsu Dragneel Dragon Slayer, was Natsu's response as he took his hand, and they both grinned foolishly. The statement, he can make friends with anyone, was made by Urza while she was taking an unconscious Gray to Naruto. With a chilly expression on her face, she extended a hand to him and said, hello, I'm Urza, his friend. It's good to meet you. Natsu turned to face Naruto, unsure if it was safe to approach her. When he shook his head, he accepted her handshake. She nearly broke his hand, which was a dreadful ending. As Natsu lay on the ground in agony, attempting to escape her death grasp, Naruto murmured in her ear, Urza, you are shaking too hard again. To his delight, she released his hand and exclaimed, oh, I'm so sorry. As she leapt at Naruto, Mirajane exclaimed, now where was I? Oh right, I'm going to kick your ass right now. He leapt out of the attack's path and grabbed Natsu by the scarf. Urza's hand on her shoulder prevented her attempt to jump at him once more. She severely tells her, guild rules say no fighting in the guild. Naruto puts Natsu down and says to her, Mirajane, I will make you a deal that I don't think you are to resist. As she dismisses Urza, Mirajane remarks, really, I have to hear this. Naruto tells her, I will spar with you once a day if you train with Urza and me. After giving it some thought, she decides it's a fine idea, but she will be devastated if he trains her. She tells him, hell no, I won't be trained by you. He tells her, I said train with us, not that I would be training you. That seemed a little unusual to her. Fine, I will try it tomorrow, and then if I like it I will do it, but if I don't I will just attack you and force you to fight me anyway, she adds as she departs. As he watched her leave, Natsu remarked, girls are scary. Just a little, but they are really nice to you, will see, but as for right now let's go train Urza and then after we can eat cake. Naruto tells her. As you wish, she replies, dropping Gray like a bag of hammers and trailing Naruto to the rear where they will train. They begin running as soon as they return, followed by workouts and other training before beginning combat training. As his seal materializes beneath his feet, Naruto tells her, okay, Urza, what you have to do is last 5 minutes against my first tail state, and if you win we get to go and have cake. If not we will train for another hour then go and eat. She holds swords in both hands as she tells Naruto, I will not hold back on you. His eyes are wild as he smiles. Wrapped in his coat, he tells her, this is going to be fun. His words to her are, be careful, Urza, because here I come, as he begins to blur and then attacks her. As she swings her blade in front of her, she thinks, fast. He sidesteps and uses his clawed hand to swing. After blocking, she kicks him in the chest, launching him into the air. He looks like a drill as he dives straight back down at her, spinning quickly. She dodges by jumping to the left, and when he hits the ground, she lunges at him, simultaneously swinging both swords at his head. B punches her in the chest plate, blocking one with his left hand and the other with his tail. She skids back and gets ready for him once more. Naruto smiles and shakes his hand. As evidence, a break forms on her chest plate. That hurt punching that armor, but I think that it is useless to wear that, it is only slowing you down, he comments. As her stance became more defensive, she wondered, what did one punch do that? Yes I did, and you need to stop relying on that armor to protect you from everything, it can only do so much, you need to be able to defend yourself without it, Naruto says as he charges her. As she began to block all of his blows, she wondered, what does he mean by that? As she struggled, things began to move more slowly, and she thought, his attacks seem slower now. As he kicked her, Naruto thought, that's right, Urza, learn to control that power and you will be able to defend everyone. Naruto was sent flying as she managed to slide under the kick and come up with an uppercut. And time, Naruto murmured, positioned before her. Naruto grinned and remarked, you did well, Urza. You are learning to control that power that I gave you. What are you saying? She questioned him. Well, things started to go in slow motion to you, right? She replied. At that, she gave a nod. Well, that's one of the powers that you got, it was to be able to get hyper-awareness that is on par with me. With that you can see any attack that is coming and defend against it, he replied to her. She happily told him, thanks for that, Naruto. I'll get stronger and be able to watch your back. Naruto grinned as he added, well, then, how about that cake? They both began returning to the guild when she gave a joyful nod. As soon as they arrived and saw Gray and Natsu consuming the cake he had prepared for Urza, Naruto practically grabbed her. As Naruto was being pulled by his heels toward them, she noticed this and began to dash forward at them. Naruto shouts, "You idiots better start running." They glance up in time to see Urza glaring at them as if they were about to die. Naruto sprinted to the bar and yelled at them, "Give me a few seconds, and I'll go get her something to calm her down." "Don't you think you are overreacting?" Naruto told the man, "Macau. I need a strawberry cake now or people will die." Naruto then pointed behind him to see Urza pushing Gray and Natsu against every table in the guild. As he hands him a cake, he says, "Here you go, just pay me back later." Naruto sat at a table and opened the box to show a strawberry cake. "Urza, come over here. I have a cake. Put them down and I will give it to you." As she flung both boys into a wall and embedded them there, she raced over to him and pulled out a chair, her eyes sparkling as she did so. As she smiled while eating the cake, he put his tail around her tummy and patted her head, saying, "There you go, now no killing members." A few minutes later, Naruto approached the two youngsters who were still inside the wall and yanked them out. He asked both, "Now, what did we learn today?" Gray warned, "Don't touch her cake." According to Natsu, what Ice Cube said was true. Naruto strolled back over to Urza and carried on with his previous task, saying, "Very good, now I have to go back to her before she gets upset." She put out a piece of cake in front of Naruto and asked him meekly, "Do you want some?" After taking a sip and tasting it, he said, "Sure, I'll try some." He told her, "It tastes good, but no offense, I still prefer ramen." As they both finished the cake, she grinned. When Makarov appeared on the table, he stated, "I think it will be a good idea to put Naruto and Urza onto a team. What do the rest of you think?" It was seconded by the entire guild. The entire guild stared at the two of them and thought, "He is the only one that can calm her down." He told them, "Well, then you two will need to make a name for yourself then." "All right," Naruto responded, "let's think." Naruto pondered, "How about Demon and Knight?" "No," Urza replied, still pondering. The words, "Fairy Guardians," were hers. Naruto grinned and remarked, "I like it when we get strong enough we can defend Fairy Tail." "Well, I believe that you are strong enough right now, Naruto. If you were able to fight all out, I think you could match Guildarts in a year or so," Makarov replied. After recalling the last time Guildarts had engaged in combat, the entire guild fell silent at that remark. "Master, are you pulling our leg? I don't think that he could match him no matter how hard someone tries. He is only second to you," comments one of the group members. Naruto addressed them, saying, "If you want, tomorrow I can show everyone the full power I can use right now." Makarov nodded his head and remarked, "That might be a good idea, boy, but only for a few seconds. If you fight for real against anyone, you might break the guild." One of the participants remarked, "I am so excited to see this tomorrow." Naruto stated somberly as he made his way to the rear of the group, "I just hope that you won't fear me after you see it." Urza hurried over to Naruto and told the guild, "You idiots just asked him to do something that he never wants to show anyone. That makes everyone gaze down in embarrassment." Makarov adds, "It is okay because we are family and no family fears those parts of it no matter what they are," and turns to go. Naruto burrows into a ball on the bed as soon as he enters his room. "If I give them my whole power, they will run like everyone else, but if I don't, they will treat me like a liar and stop talking to me. I don't want to be alone again," he thought. Urza sits next to him and tells him, "Remember, Naruto. I will always be your friend." His eyes are filled with awe as he glances up at her. "That was a two-way promise that you made. I am with you forever and you are with me forever. That is how the bond that you gave me works, right?" she tells him. Naruto gave her a hug and said, "Thank you, Urza." Happy that she could assist her friend, she returned his hug with a smile. "Let's get some rest. You have to show everyone that you are a power that will defend the guild tomorrow, right?" Urza replied. His words were, "Yeah, you're right," as he collapsed in her embrace. She simply grinned and placed him on the bed as she took off her armor and changed into her pajamas. She positioned herself beside him and dozed out, both of them grinning. The following morning the sound of crashing was what awakened them up. Naruto sat up and rubbed his eye, mumbling, "What was that?" He turned to see Mirajane standing at the room's entrance. "What are you doing sleeping with Urza, you stupid fox?" she said. He asks her, "What do you mean we do this all the time?" At this remark, her mouth fell open. Urza told him, "Naruto, you are going to cause misunderstanding. What he means is that we sleep together because there are no other rooms for him and I do not mind sharing my bed with him," she tells her. "You shouldn't be doing that. Where were you guys born? A whorehouse," she said. She heard Naruto say, "In the forest." "A slave," was Urza's direct statement. As she began to leave, Mirajane remarked, "Oh, so I guess that neither of you know morals then. Great. Let's go and eat, after the guild will be here to see how strong you are, Naruto," she told him. Naruto spoke the words, "All right," with a hint of sadness. then felt Urza's hand on his shoulder and grinned. After putting on their regular clothes, the two went outside to the dining hall, where they discovered that roughly half of the guild was present. Kana was gesturing for them to approach her table. Kana exclaimed joyfully, "I see that you are wearing the cloak that I got you." Naruto told her, "It's nice and warm and helps hide my human features from others." She asks us, "That's good to hear. Tell me what you want to eat today." Naruto stated clearly that he was still not accustomed to the meals here. "The same as you, I guess," Urza told her, "I'm okay with that. We all eat the dinner that Kana ordered, just like yesterday." Naruto grinned and stuffed his face, saying, "I like this. I could get used to eating something I didn't have to hunt." Kana questioned, "You had to hunt down your own food?" "Yup, and I learned how to cook and everything to survive by myself," she said to him. As they finished their meal, Urza told him, "That is good to know when we go out on other missions." Kana observed an almost full guild and remarked, "Well, it looks like most of the guild is here." Naruto questioned, "Why are they all so interested in me?" "Well, the person that Gigi compared you to is the second strongest person in the guild besides Makarov," she told him. Naruto tells her, "Oh well, I hope that I don't disappoint." When Makarov appears on the table, he asks, "Well, are you ready, my boy? I guess?" was Naruto's somewhat shaky response. He reassured him, saying, "Don't worry about being nervous, we won't make fun of you." "That's not why I'm hesitant, it's because I don't want the guild to be afraid of me because the power I have now is about half of what I can get," Naruto tells him. As they begin to leave, he says to Naruto, "Well, that is mighty impressive, my boy. Let's go to the back now." Following a great deal of pushing and arguing, the entire guild went outside to observe the alleged Demon Slayer's demonstration. To Naruto, Gigi says, "Well, go on, my boy." Naruto throws the cloak to her and asks, "Can I hold this?" "Urza, please speak for me as I won't be able to speak clearly on the form I'm about to take." Naruto addresses her. She responds to him by saying, "I will." After taking a steady breath, Naruto drops to his knees. Biju Cloak Tale 5 is a demon. Slaying magic. 5 crimson magic seals surround and emerge beneath him as he speaks. Then he is surrounded by a huge column of energy that shoots out of him. When she can't see him, Urza gets a little anxious, but then the energy stops and a cloud of dust appears. For a moment there was only silence, and then the dust cloud began to grumble. The boy fleeing was covered in a crimson and black pattern that gave everyone the chills, making it appear as though it were alive. His teeth had been sharpened, his eyes had turned into pure white circles, and the interior of his lips had turned white. He had long ears on top of his head and 5 tails that swung everywhere. At last, bones appeared to be beginning to emerge from his hands and feet. One of the members exclaimed, "What the hell is that?" when they sensed Naruto's dark energy leaking off of him. I could hear Naruto snarl pitifully as he muttered to Urza, "I knew they would be afraid of me." Urza then took the surprising step of approaching Naruto and putting her arms around his head. "This is Naruto no matter what he looks like, and he will protect this guild with all of his power, but you making him feel like a monster is not what a family does," she told them all. Everyone recoiled in embarrassment at the realization that she was correct. They were afraid of him since he not only possessed Gildart's power but also had the capacity to grow stronger than him. Mira Jane and her siblings approached Naruto and gave him a glance. Mira Jane grinned wildly and continued, "Now I want to beat the hell out of you even more." As he leapt on Naruto's back like a horse, Natsu remarked, "You are a slayer, we stick together." "I don't think that any of us will be able to stand Natsu if you aren't there to shut him up," Gray replied. Natsu asked, "What did you say, Ice Pop?" As they locked heads once more, preparing to beat on each other, Gray remarked, "You heard me, Lava Breath." Makarov grinned and said to him, "My boy, what you do with it is what counts, not the magic you use or your level of strength." Naruto says, "Thank you everyone," as he returns to his usual self and gives them a tearful smile. After a few weeks of Naruto displaying his full might to everyone, the situation has subsided quite nicely. He completed a couple more quests and assignments with Urza, and if Gildarts approved of the choice, he would soon be nominated as AS rank wizard. Every time he returned from his travels, he was ecstatic to find the master embracing him for the minimal harm he had inflicted. It was only when he was defending Urza from a black mage attack that he ever inflicted harm. After Naruto battled her, Mira Jane joined Naruto and Urza for their daily training sessions. As of right now, Mira Jane has a score of 0 and Naruto has a score of 26. When they had to learn how to perform arithmetic and everything else by Urza, Natsu was also taken under Naruto's wing. This made things a little better because Naruto was able to help her relax a little so that she wouldn't be totally embarrassed by going to school. Naruto has learned during the past few weeks that Urza Natsu and Gray were the Urza faction and Mirajane and her sibling were the Mira faction. Naruto was chosen to serve as a mediator between the two groups since, of all the guild members, he was the only one who could calm them down. As he ran at him holding an egg, Natsu shouted, "Hey Naruto, I found an egg, look, it's a dragon's egg and I'm going to hatch it." He rubbed his head while he gazed at the egg and murmured, "Really, that's awesome Natsu, maybe it's your little brother." In an attempt to obtain the dragon as soon as possible, Natsu inquired, "So how am I supposed to hatch it?" Naruto told the excited dragon slayer, "Well, you would have to keep it warm and wait for the right time that it feels is right to come out." As he began to breathe flames on it, he exclaimed joyfully, "Heat, I can do that." "Not like that," Naruto screamed as he closed his mouth, sobbing as he felt fire on his teeth. From behind me, I hear a young girl say, "Let me help." Lasana is immediately behind us, grinning sweetly as usual. "Alright, if you could, would you mind helping Natsu with this, considering that your takeover magic would be a big help?" I say to her. As she transforms into a gigantic bird using her magic, she says, "No problem now, Natsu, watch, this is what Naruto meant." I answered with joy, "Well, I'll let you do it," and then I heard a crash. Urza shouts, "Say that again, Satan girl." "Fine strawberry cake tastes horrible," snaps back Mirajane. They lock heads and begin fighting once more. The only person who could separate them without the use of shackles and putting them both out was Naruto. Whenever they are left alone without Naruto's training, they end up fighting for no apparent cause. Before they could make contact, Naruto grabbed their fists and put his tail over Urza's tummy to calm her down. "Now, don't fight, what happened this time," he said. Urza glared at Mirajane and remarked, "She insulted my cake." She shouted back, "And you were about to kill someone for having an opinion. Mirajane, you know that she loves that food, so that is a bad thing to say, plus it is a well-known fact that we of Fairy Tail overreact on certain things," I told her. I turn to face Urza before she speaks. "And Urza, I don't mind if you go nuts when you are angry about someone eating your cake or something like that, but everyone has a right to their own opinions," I tell her. Both of them gaze downward. Naruto gives them both a happy pat on the head and says, "Now you don't have to apologize to each other, but at least no more fighting for now." Naruto took a seat between the two of them after they both nodded and sat down. For the three of them, he orders a banana sundae, a slice of strawberry cake, and some ramen. As the females begin eating, there are sparkles in their eyes. With a joyful smile, Naruto eats his own food. Urza smiles when Naruto puts his tail around her once more since it feels so comfortable. As Mirajane drops the spoon she was holding and begins massaging Naruto's ears with her fingers, a nasty smirk appears on her lips. Naruto feels a shock and begins to freeze, attempting to suppress his purr. However, he continues to do so since, as he grew older, he observed that his ears and tail were becoming more and more sensitive to touch. Mirajane joyfully remarks, "This is the one cute thing about you Naruto. You purr just like a fox," as she keeps doing this, causing Naruto to wriggle under her touch. Urza rubs his head in an attempt to remove Mirajane, saying, "Stop that, you are bothering him." Mirajane tells her, but he must like it because he is purring. Urza tells her that is an unconscious reaction that he has whenever anybody does that to him, before giving Naruto a crazed rub on the back of his ears. He jumps away from them after a few seconds since he can no longer stand it. Naruto puts on his hood to try to hide his ears from everyone, whining, "That's it, stop tuffing my ears." She exclaims joyfully, "But I just can't help it, it is just too irresistible to touch them." Naruto begins to back away as Mirajane begins to flex her fingers in front of him, saying, "Well, I do mind now, please stop." A joyful, "Come here little fox, I'm not done touching," she exclaimed as she approached. Naruto shouts, "I'll be going out to train," and dashes out the door, making himself appear to vanish. After seeing a picture of Naruto storming through the doors, Marco remarks, "I think someone should go with him." Urza says, "I'll go look for him," and she follows him out the door. With joy, Kana remarked, "Those two would be so cute together in a few more years." Mirajane responds, her face flushed, "Kana, what are you talking about?" The fact that Urza is the only person he could be with is not mentioned in her joyful statement, it's just that they aren't related and they are practically inseparable whenever they see each other. It would make them such a cute couple when they grow older. Mirajane yells, "Like hell," as she rushes out the door and follows the two. Kana mockingly remarks, "Well, it looks like your sister has a crush on little Naruto," to Lasana and Elfman. While Gray sighed in frustration and Natsu remained perplexed, they both flushed and looked down. In the woods as he glanced around, Naruto exclaimed with joy, "Okay, I think I lost them." He began to panic as he was doing this. He starts running in circles, trying to figure out where he is, and exclaims, "Crap, I'm lost too." Then he had a familiar force in the middle of his panic. He said, "Dad," and began running at full speed in the direction of the evil power he sensed. He initially saw nothing when he arrived, but then he noticed a recognizable red glow. He glanced and then noticed a small fox sitting in front of him, so he asked, "Is that you, QB?" Its paws were black, its ears and tail tips were black, and its fur was blood crimson. The fact that the small kid had 9 tails, just like QB, was what truly attracted Naruto's attention. He leaned in front of the small fox and said, "Dad, is that you?" It approached him and put its head against Naruto's hand. It muttered, "Brother," to him. Confused, Naruto knelt cross-legged in front of the small fox and placed it on his lap before asking, "You can talk?" "The fox told me, I was sent by Father QB to you as a last gift from him. What are you, a student of his?" inquired Naruto, perplexed. "No, I am a demon just like father, but I am weaker than he is. I am your little sister, you can call me Q," she said him. Inquiring as to whether she could change into a larger fox that could assist him, he asks her, "Well Q, if you are my sister, are you able to transform like me when I fight, or are you always like this?" "Yes, I can look like this," she answered, removing herself from him and donning the same crimson robe as Naruto. After she began to expand, a dazzling light appeared. The light was so intense that he closed his eyes, and when it subsided, he turned back to face her. Anybody who wasn't Naruto and still didn't know anything about ladies would have fell backwards by bleeding their nose. A young girl with 9 tails emerging from her tailbone, about 4 years younger than him, was standing in front of him. Her beautiful, crimson hair went all the way to the back of her body. She had blood-red, slitted eyes that were just like Naruto's. Her canines were erupting from her mouth, like when she was in her fox form. She also had little fox ears with black tips protruding from her head. However, her complete lack of clothing made her nakedness visible to everyone on the planet. He approached her and prodded her ears, causing them to quiver, demonstrating their authenticity. He asks her, "So you are my little sister?" She stumbled over to him, still unaccustomed to the human legs, and joyfully gave him a hug, saying, "That is true." As she embraced him and his tail covered her lower body, he remarked joyfully, "Well Q, my name is Naruto, and it's good to meet family again." As he wrapped her in his cloak and picked her up bridal style, she murmured to him, "Before I forget, you should put this on." She rests her head on his shoulder and asks, "Why is that?" "Well, people here like to cover themselves unlike demons and things in the wild, so I need for you to wear this for now." She responds to him. She smiles and puts her head on his shoulder, saying, "Okay, if that's what you want, brother." As he and his new sister begin their journey to the guild, Naruto remarks, "Well, let's see if I can find my way back to the guild. If I remember the smell, it should be this way." As he carries his sister, Naruto asks, "Oh, would you mind changing back into your fox form right before we get there?" Clad in the same crimson cloak, she shrinks back into the little fox she was before, saying, "All right, if that is what you want, brother." "This is better," she inquires. "Yes, I don't want the people at the guild to freak out with me carrying a cure little girl back to the guild." He smiles at her. She nuzzles her head into his chest, content to feel the warmth he radiates, but he doesn't notice her blushing because of her fur. After 3 hours, Urza and Mirajane were at the guild, sitting with their heads lowered on the table and surrounded by a melancholy aura. One of the guild members questions Marco, "Do you think that they are okay? They're that close and not fighting, something is wrong?" He responds to the guild member by saying, "I don't know, but I believe it has something to do with Naruto not being here. They're usually around him all the time." They heard the joyful demon slayer ask, "Hey guys, did someone say my name?" The girls simultaneously screamed, "Naruto," and leapt at the demon slayer, embracing him so tightly that they threatened to crush him. To shield his sister from the bare embraces he was receiving from his anxious buddies, he placed her atop his head. "We believe that you fled," Mirajane yells. "Where were you? I wasn't able to get in contact with you," Urza said. "Sorry Urza, I shut that off so that I could be alone for a little while. You two are nice to be with, but you are never stop when I tell you to," Naruto candidly confesses to her. They both nod in agreement that he was correct as they exchange glances. They would only stop fighting when he did something for them. While they were playing with him and he repeatedly urged them to stop, they never did since they were enjoying themselves too much. "All right, we will stop when you ask us, but you have to never disappear without telling us something," agreed, he hears them say. "You got it," he remarked joyfully, giving them another embrace. The guild found their joyful smiles to be the sweetest thing ever, but they knew that if they spoke, the two girls would kill them. His sister let out a moan as he released them. He muttered, "Sorry, Q," to the fox on his head and began to hug her like a baby. rubbing her ear while she purred with pleasure at the attention. Looked at Q, Mirajane said. Who would this little guy be? This is a girl first of all, and second, this is my little sister Q, he smiled. Urza began, little sister, I know that you like foxes Naruto because they remind you of Kyuubi, but soon stopped when she noticed the 9 tails wagging joyfully in Naruto's company. Then he seemed to have an idea. She is Kyuubi's daughter and kind of a last gift from my dad so that I could have a nice family, he remarked cheerfully. He asked the girls, will you wait here while I return in a few minutes? They nodded, though they were a little concerned that he may leave them again. He spoke to the girl with the brown hair sitting next to Mikao. Okay, Kana, could you join me for a moment? With joy, she leapt to her feet and trailed him into the rear. Alright, I am going to need to borrow one of your dresses from when you were a little younger if you can, Naruto says to the child. She asks with confusion, why would you want one? He asks her cheerfully, well, I want it to be a surprise, can you do it? With an air of malice about her, she adds, well, if you say so, but if you do something perverted I will punish you. He nodded his head rapidly in an attempt to calm her down while he saw the perspiration drip off his face. She answered to him, all right, then give me a minute. She dashed into her room and emerged a few seconds later wearing a white frock encircled by crimson rose petals. As he picked up the dress and left for his room, he told her, thank you, that would be great. He asks the young girl, all right, Q, could you change into your human form so that you can meet everyone? She nodded, leapt from his arms, and landed on the ground as instructed. She was once more standing in front of her brother, nude as the day she was born. Due to their upbringing, the two still know nothing about public immorality. He tells her, all right, now put your arms over your head. Following instructions, she puts the dress over her head. It actually fit pretty well, which surprised me. He patted her head lovingly and murmured, there we go, with joy. She began to embrace his arm while grinning broadly and giggling. He told her, all right, it's time to go say hello to everyone else. As they resumed their trip back to the main lobby, she gave a joyful nod. Everyone was staring at what they were seeing when they returned outside. This young girl had fox ears and tails, just like Naruto. The only differences were that she was a girl and had blood-red hair. Where is Q and who is she? Mirajane inquired bewilderedly. As he wrapped his arm around her sister, making her grin, Naruto exclaimed joyfully, this is Q, just her human form instead of her animal form, and like I said before, she is my little sister. As he approached us, Gigi remarked, so our little demon slayer has a little sister that's cute and she is just adorable. When Q sensed Naruto's magic, she ducked behind him. Naruto reassured the small, terrified girl, don't worry Q, he is a good person and will not hurt you with his magic. Gigi questioned Naruto, she can sense magic. Well, sort of, we demon slayers can smell the concentration of magic coming off of someone even if they are holding it back. She heard him say. He turned back to Q and grinned warmly, saying, well, that is interesting. Sorry for scaring you, don't worry I don't, but I think your brother would do that before me. He joked. Defensively, Naruto remarked, hey, I only teeth when I am playing. Makarov questioned bewilderedly, I was kidding Naruto, and what do you mean teeth? Well, when I was younger I would play with different animal families running around and wrestling like we should to get stronger. I said to him. Confused, he said, and you were saying you would do that with your little sister. Confused, Naruto said, you aren't playing with each other normally. Q's countenance was just as bewildered as Naruto's. Everyone's perspiration stopped. As they gazed at the new siblings, they all thought they were raised by a wild animal, really. Q then sniffed the air before approaching Urza and smelled her before grinning as she leapt on her. She nuzzled her head into her arm and exclaimed, yay, a sister, with joy. As they looked at the two, they exclaimed, what? Well, the thing is that I bonded with Urza before coming to Fairy Tail, and whoever a demon slayer bonds with is considered family. Naruto tells the guild. Everyone nods in agreement as someone murmurs, so that's why they are so close. Urza is still staring in disbelief at the girl who gave her a hug and is unsure of what to do. Gazing at Urza, Naruto approached her and gave Q a head rub. Don't worry, she just likes being held and petted. She is more like a fox than a human because she is tactically a demon, but there is a difference, he told her. Urza rubbed Q's head, causing her to purr joyfully, and inquired, what do you mean? Well, demon slayers don't hurt demons that are good, we are like the peacekeepers whenever there are too many bad demons running around. In reality there are only a few good demons left and a lot of man-made evil demons running around, and it's my job to kill them. He smiled at her. Her words, that makes sense, were followed by Q's endearing yawn. She mumbles, brother, I'm sleepy, as she begins to nod off while hugging Naruto. He takes her up bridal style and heads to the back, where he and Urza sleep, saying, okay, let's go and get some sleep then, up we go. Naruto mentally tells her, come to bed when you are tired, Urza. Before turning in for the night, she gives him a nod and gets some supper. Kana tells Makarov, I think that Q might be too young to join Fairy Tail. We will have her decide when she wakes up. For right now everyone get back to your business, he beams. After following instructions, everyone resumes their individual activities. Well, looks like you two have another person that will be with Naruto. Are you going to be able to handle it? Gray inquires with interest. He then begins to gently retreat as he senses that Urza and Mirajane are plotting his murder. Mirajane smiles sweetly and tells him, one more word and you will be a stain on the wall, understand? Knowing that he would be killed even if he apologized, he just nods his head as he is ready to say something. Urza says, good, now run along, Gray. He runs out the door, and nobody realized that a specific dragon slayer and a white-haired female had already left when it all began. Back in the room with Naruto and Q was sleeping well while using her new brother as a pillow. Naruto replies with joy, well, that is just cute, as he lies down and watches his sister sleep soundly. He hears Urza question, Naruto, is she asleep? As she enters the room. As they witness her embracing him, Naruto tells Urza, yeah, and even though she is asleep, she doesn't let me go just like you those first few nights when we left that tower. Well, both of us were lonely, but I have some weird news for you, she tells him. Naruto asks, and what would that be, Urza? Well, Master says that you should be looking for a place to stay tomorrow. He doesn't want you to have to sleep with me anymore, then you have to apparently, she tells him. Why is that? It isn't a problem, in fact I kind of like it, you are warm and cute when you sleep. He smiles at her. Despite blushing at the compliment, she approaches him and removes her armor and sword on her own. I don't know why, but you know when I said I would tell you about what a maid is, right? Urza tells him. Since he has been curious about what that is for some time, Naruto nods contentedly. Well, in a sense it is a person that you will have sex with and love for the rest of your life. For humans it is called marriage, she tells him. As Naruto's jaw slammed against the ground, the tiny machines in his skull were in operation. What? He almost screamed, but then he remembered Q. Urza blushed as she answered, yes, that is what it is. Oh god, Urza, I am so sorry. I didn't know what it was at first, but now I think I did something horrible with taking away that choice, Naruto grumbles. Regaining some of her composure, she told him, it is not that bad of a thing. You are the closest person that I have right now, and maybe we will start to love each other for all I know. But back to the other topic. As of right now, the people of the guild believe that two kids of the opposite sex cannot live in the same room without having sex, she said him as she sat next to him on his chair. Well, that is just strange. I don't think that way about you right now. I love you because you are kind, cute, and helpful to me, not because of something like that. QB said that I should only bond with people that are close to me, and of everyone that I have ever known so far, you are the one that I am closest to. Naruto smiled. Despite her red face, Urza nodded and rested her head on his chest, as she normally did before bed. He pulled her closer to him as he placed his tail over her stomach. Naruto exclaimed joyfully, good night, Urza, Q, sweet dreams, just before he passed out. Urza simply nodded and went to sleep, not trusting her voice at the moment. Urza stares at that blonde and smiles at being the one closest to him, thinking, stupid Naruto, not knowing what he says and what it does to me. In the midst of the night it was still dark as Naruto woke up and looked about. As Naruto glances down and notices that Q and Urza are both sleeping soundly with his chest acting as a pillow, he murmurs, I guess I woke up and I need to walk around a little bit. He leaps up as quickly as he can, slides off of them, and immediately places pillows where he was, without even moving from his position. I don't want to wake them up, so let's try this, he adds. They do not wake up, however they do stir somewhat while they sleep. As he leapt out the window, he muttered, okay, now let's go explore and see where Natsu was going. He notices that tonight is a full moon when he glances around. As he takes up a letter, he cheerfully remarks, that's good. I love the sight of the moon, it relaxes me for some reason. As he jogs off to the scent, he asks, Mirajane, why is she outside? There's Lasana and Natsu too. I should check up on this. He uses his enhanced vision to view Natsu and Lasana sleeping well with the egg between them until he arrives in a clearing and spots what I believe to be a large dome of grass. With binoculars to his eyes, he watches Mirajane dozing off on a limb to his right. As he leaps up to where she was, Naruto murmurs, if she isn't careful, she will fall. Startled, she leapt back and began to tumble from the tree. Grabbing her by the waist, Naruto pushed her back until she was sitting on his lap and gazing back at her previous position. She nearly screamed in rage and humiliation at being so close to the demon slayer. Naruto, get the hell off of me. Like he did for Urza, he put his tail over her stomach and put his arms around her neck, giving her a gentle hug. You need to sleep, and to answer your demand, no, I will not get off of you because you might fall off again. Even though he couldn't see it, the rather irate girl was blushing profusely at what he was doing. She didn't try to rip him off, though, since she knew he was right as she hadn't slept all day. It was so late in the evening, and she was really exhausted, as seen by the bags under her eyes. As sleep overtook her and her breathing evened down, she muttered to Naruto, "If you try anything to me while I am asleep, I will kill you." As he gives the gothic girl a closer grip to keep her from falling off the limb while they sleep, he joyfully exclaims, "Sleep well, Mira-Jane. You will need it for later." Before he closed his eyes and went to sleep with her, he made sure to maintain the connection with Urza so she could tell her tomorrow. The following morning, as he began to awaken from his slumber, Naruto heard in his head, "Naruto, where are you?" He yawns and responds, "Good morning, Urza. I apologize, but I ended up sleeping outside last night while I was out and about." She tells him with a hint of joy, "Well, that is not a bad thing, but at least you kept the connection intact with me this time." He cheerfully tells her, "Don't worry, you won't believe who I found. I'll tell you when we all return to the guild." He looked around and saw Mira-Jane drooling a little as she moved about in her sleep and was now facing him with her arms wrapped around him and her head on his chest. "Okay, I'll get Q up and meet you later," she replies to him. He murmurs to her, "That's really cute actually, Mira," which causes her to shift slightly and begin to awaken. She murmurs, "What? Oh, it's just Naruto," as she closes her eyes once more and begins to fall asleep. Naruto counts down from 5 while placing his palms over his ears. As expected, she screamed and leapt into the air 5 seconds later. She shouted, "Naruto, what are you doing in my bed?" "This isn't your bed, Mira-Jane, we are outside, remember you were watching your sister and fell asleep on me," she heard him say. Her face was as red as Urza's hair, and she was seated on the branch opposite him, peering down. She questioned me aggressively, "You didn't do anything to me while I was asleep, did you?" I pointed to her sleeveless belly top and miniskirt, saying, "I hugged you and made sure that you were warm considering that you don't dress for cold weather." When she noticed my tail on my lap while she slept, she said, "So that's why it was so warm." Curious, she told me, "You wrapped your tail around me. I thought you only did that to Urza." "Well, you were sleeping and I didn't want you to catch a cold, but you're right, other than Urza you were the only one that I did that to." He smiled at her. Mira-Jane smirked slightly, but Naruto didn't give it much attention, supposing she was simply happy. I got down from the branch and waited for her, saying, "Well, come on, it's time to go to the guild again." Urza and Q are wondering where we are. As she got down beside me and we headed back to the guild, she replied, "Okay, whatever," in her typical manner. When we arrived, a sobbing redhead tackled Naruto as soon as he opened the doors. In an attempt to console her as best he can, Naruto furiously strokes her head and gives her a hug. "Q, what's the matter?" "I'm right here," he says. She put her tails around him and cried, "You weren't there when I woke up, and when I looked for you, I couldn't find you." She was doing everything she could to prevent him from escaping from her ever again. "Sorry about that, I couldn't sleep, so I took a walk and saw Mira-Jane on a branch falling, so I ended up sleeping with her to keep her warm," he candidly stated to her. The words, "You didn't run away from me," were muttered into his shirt. He joyfully tells her, "I would never run away from my family." With bloodshot eyes, she looks up at him and pleads, "Sniffle, promise." He kisses her forehead and whispers, "Yes, Q, promise." She cheerfully wipes the tears from her eyes and responds, "Okay." As he approached the group with Urza beside him and his cane, Makarov remarked, "Finally she calmed down, but she hasn't stopped crying and screaming all morning when she didn't see you when she woke up. Sorry if she caused you trouble, Gigi, but I just had a bad feeling last night and needed to get out for a second," he tells him. A man with orange hair and a toned body emerges from behind Makarov as he says, "There is no harm done, just some early rising for us, but no matter, now there is someone that I would like for you to meet." He asks the guild master, "So this is the kid," in a tone that is simultaneously friendly and forceful. "Yes, this is he, Guildarts, I would like for you to test him if that is not too much trouble," he replies to him. He smiles and replies, "No problem. Well, kid, it looks like I am going to be testing you." The door to the guild suddenly crashes open as Naruto smiles back. Natsu starts racing up to individuals and yells, "Where is it?" suspecting them of stealing the egg. With Q still fastened to his waist, Naruto joyfully tells Natsu, "Calm down and tell me what happened. I will help as best I can." He screamed at her, "My dragon egg was stolen. It was you, wasn't it, Mira-Jane?" She retorted, like hellflame breath, at him. He turned directly to her next and said, "Then it was you, Urza." She gently tells him, "No, it wasn't." He sprinted toward Gray and said, "Snowcone, you stole it. Stop yelling at everyone, and no, I didn't take your stupid egg," he responded. He shouted, "Luxus, you stole it." His tone was deadpan as he asked, "Why would I bother taking an egg from you?" Urza scowled at her rival as a terrible aura began to envelop her. "Just calm down and Mirajane, just admit you stole it and give it back to him," she stated. Mirajane remained with the same aura around her, saying, "Like hell you did it, I have someone to prove my innocence, how about you?" With a gloomy tone, Urza remarked, "As do I now fess up." Staying far away from the impending fight, Naruto placed Q on his lap as he walked to the side of the guild near Kana. Guildarts said the words 5 4 3 2 1 before a massive fight broke out in the guild. As he looks at Q and scratches her ears, causing her to purr joyfully, Naruto deadpans, "I think I'll let them fight it out for a little while before I break it up." Guildarts laughs at the recollections of this location and remarks, "You sound like you break this up all the time." "Well, I kind of have to. I'm the only one that can calm them all down without breaking the guild. I normally stop them when they are about to us magic," I respond to him. He comments cheerfully, "Smart, if you keep on going at this rate, you could make a good master someday." However, he seems a little perplexed as to how he stops them now. Elfman approaches Naruto carrying the egg that caused the argument and says, "Why is everyone fighting this time?" Naruto remarked, "Well, actually, it is about that thing in your hand. You might want to tell them before they end up killing each other." Urza brought out her swords. As promised, she did, and Mirajane was surrounded by black sparks. According to Naruto, "Everyone that is enough unless you would like for me to join in," was spoken as his seal materialized beneath him, crimson energy beginning to flow out of him along with a death aura. At that, everyone froze, slowly turning to face him. Setting Q aside, he began to wrap his coat about himself. Mirajane responded, somewhat frightened, "No need for that, we will calm down." Urza put her weapons away and nodded. Natsu and Gray shook hands, nodded, and wrapped their arms around each other's necks. As the cloak began to lift, he remarked, "That's good, I thought I was going to have to discipline you all again." They all thought, "Not after you almost destroyed the Wild Guild the last time you joined." "Well, now that I have your attention, Elfman has something that he wants to give back to Natsu. Now done, you Elfman," Naruto said to him. "Yes, he responded, holding up the egg and laughing a little in embarrassment. Natsu went over and joyfully grabbed the egg, embracing it with a, "My egg," shout. "Why did you have the egg anyway?" Naruto said interestedly. "Well, when they were sleeping they rolled away from the egg and it was getting cold. I can only do partial transformations, but it is still good for warming an egg," he grumbled sheepishly. Naruto patted him on the back and said, "See, that's the way of thinking. Even if it takes a while, you can do it bit by bit." His words were, "Thanks, Naruto," with joy. The egg then suddenly began to glow. "What the hell?" shouted Mirajane, shielding her eyes. Happily, Naruto remarked, "I suppose it's hatching." "Yay," Q said as she gave Naruto another embrace. A cat was in the air where the egg had been when the light went out. "A cat," the guild exclaimed in shock. "I" is uttered abruptly. Everyone shouted, "Kawaii," with hearts in their eyes. Naruto muttered, "Well, I didn't see that one coming. Look at the guild, we were all fighting a few seconds ago and now we are all happy family again." Lasana smiled. Natsu remarked cheerfully, "I suppose you're right, that's it. Your name is Happy." They all walked over the guild members and began a party of happiness. The little cat said, jumping onto Natsu's head. "Well, let's have that spar another time. Right now it's too good of a time to spoil with violence," Naruto said cheerfully as he wrapped his tail around Urza, who was standing next to him. "I like your logic there. Okay, tomorrow it is then," he said happily.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.